Hi and welcome to this week's Three Legs, Four Wheels F1 podcast. It's Paul here with...
Dan, Chris and Lee. To start that again.
No, we'll keep that one. Are you feeling yourself at the moment?
Yes, right now I'm fine. Yeah.
Too much information.
Yeah. And my hands are above the table, so I'm not feeling myself in that way.
Mine aren't.
Yeah, indeed. Mexico.
It happened.
What a weekend.
Yeah, there is a new Formula One. Well, not new, but
a slightly used Formula One world champion.
Yeah. Well, he is a new champion, I suppose. And Nico Rosberg was the incumbent champion until
he retired, and then I decided last night he was champion emeritus.
It's nice to have a Formula One driver, which is a Formula One champion, which is a Formula One driver, though, isn't it?
Yeah, rather than somebody who just walks around with a trophy every now and again in a brown suit, looking smug.
Well, I thought you liked Rosberg now he'd stopped racing, and
I like his clothes.
You were warming to him.
No, really, I've had no contact with him.
The court order's still in force.
Yeah, he came across well at Monaco, but that's the only time we've seen him, isn't
Look,
it?
Nico Rosberg's reign of terror is over. He's no...
That'll make way for the Lewis Hamilton reign of terror. Hang on.
Yeah, Lewis Hamilton reign of selfies. More selfies than you can throw a selfie stick at.
A friend of mine was gone away on holiday this week, and she did the usual thing of photos all over the place. I know this is sounding very Patreon-y, but there is a point. I'll get to it. And she had photos all over the place. 50 photos on Facebook before she'd even left the airport. Mm-hmm. And she took a photo of herself in the lift. Going up to the air bridge because she was flying on a A380.
Hashtag still I rise.
And she was on the top floor, so she took a photo in the lift. So I sort of replied to it, you look like Lewis bloody Hamilton.
Yes.
So are we going to get lift selfies with a trophy?
It's possible.
Because last time he was champion, he hadn't discovered the selfie lift.
Lewis Hamilton has been celebrating by drinking lots and actually put videos of himself singing old, like, crooner style songs on Instagram and Snapchat. Not really, no, not particularly. Not terrible. Not like, oh God, you can't sing. Just like you wouldn't want to hear that. Do you know what I mean? You wouldn't pay to watch Lewis Hamilton.
So we're guessing
sing.
When the album comes out, it's not going to be an album of standards, and he's not going to go like all Michael Bublé. No,
but there are other things that happened other than Lewis Hamilton winning the World Championship yesterday.
There are, and
it was. I said before the race, but I just had a feeling we were going to get fireworks, and we got them.
Well, I thought there was confetti cannons and smoke bombs on the podium.
There were,
and
that's
a DJ,
true.
And a DJ,
which we'll get to.
I missed WWE Formula One.
You missed the
when the
heady days of Austin,
when the national anthem was going on and it all got a bit dry and a bit boring.
Oh, the national anthem was brilliant. It was an unbelievable rendition of it.
Oh yeah, the kids' choir band,
badly mic'd up trumpet. Apparently, it sounded fantastic at the track because one of our listeners, Fernando, was sat in the baseball stadium section.
Yeah,
and he was sending stuff through to us all weekend. And he sent a message just before the race started saying, "Sounded great here, no sound problems at all."
Maybe he's just got a heart in his body. Maybe it sounded as wank as I think it sounded.
No, they just forgot to turn the microphones on
for the TV.
Yeah.
Now is that like a central thing, or is it the circuit that decides that? Who decides when to turn the? Sure, it must be like a production team of some description.
Whoever's producing the world feed, and they just didn't. I've got this mixer next to me, and there's all these buttons that say mute.
Yeah.
And if you press one, it mutes. If you press it again, it unmutes, and maybe they just forgot to press it to unmute.
Well, I've done that with bands before, but I digress.
I've done that with people.
Muted
Carry
them.
on. Yeah.
It's all gonna be Black Mirror.
It has.
Should we start from the back? Because we always get accused of not spending too much time talking about the teams at the back.
Yeah, I asked on our Facebook today for a few suggestions, and one of the ones that came through was just to spend a little bit more time talking about the teams that were at the back. Maybe just sort of where the drivers might be looking at going for next year, whether or not even if they're already not going to be driving next year, do they deserve to be?
As long as this doesn't eat into my McLaren time, I don't care.
There'll be plenty of time for McLaren time later on, Lee. So so who have we got first up on the list? I think is it Renault first?
I think Renault with a dishonourable mention as well for the engine supply as well as the team.
I don't know if it's because of the high altitude in Mexico that confused them.
Made the mechanics dizzy.
Yeah, well, it just didn't work with the turbo and the and everything else.
Not great signs for McLaren though, is it?
No. How many Honda cars retired from that race?
None.
Oh right. How many Renault cars retired from that race?
Four.
How many Honda cars won that race?
None.
How many Renault cars won that race?
Good counter argument, Dan.
Yes, fair enough. Sorry, it was 4 Renault
I think
engines.
you'll find that was a tag car, Dan.
Yo, sorry.
Yes.
No, I forgot. Yes, it was a Tag Heuer engine.
So 3 Renaults and 1 Tag retired.
Yeah.
Renault themselves have actually said that they were too aggressive with their engine performance.
Mapping mode.
It's not very French at all, is it?
Subtitles, I'm shrugging. But it wasn't great. I mean, Hulkenberg, was he in Palmer's car? That is the conspiracy of the moment.
Well, that is what I think, because we've been paying attention and spotting Palmer's transponder stopping working while Palmer was in the car on quite a regular basis.
In the US, Sainz's transponder wasn't working properly.
Correct. But in Mexico, Hulkenberg's transponder wasn't working properly. So, was he in Palmer's chassis there? Which would be a bit weird, but it's what it looks like.
So have Renault given Sainz the reliable car? Well, this weekend, no, because neither Renault actually finished.
I don't believe that they've ripped Hulkenberg out of his car and put him in Palmer's.
Maybe they gave Hulkenberg Palmer's transponder.
Maybe, just to try it. Because maybe it's a transponder issue, but every time they test it, it works. But then when it gets to an actual race situation, it fails.
I think it's a coincidence.
But it could well be. But the
you mean like all that fuss that we had with the microphone leads before, and it turned out it was Dan's mobile?
Absolutely,
that's the one.
But I've got to say, one of the most dramatic retirements we've seen in a long time. Not for action, but for
sheer terror.
Yeah, the car is unsafe, Nico. Stop it now. Get out and do not touch the back of the car. You climb on the front of the car and jump off onto the ground.
It wasn't even the most dramatic retirement in this race.
No, but it was quite dramatic, though.
Yeah. It was, yeah.
Stop it now and get out of the car, but
carefully.
Do not touch the back.
I think
he
even said the car is dangerous, didn't he?
The car is not safe. Yeah.
But as we know, Formula One cars don't pose an electrocution risk.
Just ask Alonso.
Yes.
Yeah.
Shocking. Someone had to.
Shocking return, isn't that Misfits album? Anyway.
In other news, Ron Dennis takes over Renault.
Can you imagine if Ron Dennis had taken over at Renault for this race? How long it would have taken to pass the message on to get out of the car? In full Ron speak.
Extricate yourself from the vehicle immediately. We believe it to not be of a standard befitting the safety standards that we adhere to at Ron Dennis Motorsport.
By this time.
By the time he's finished that, Hulkenberg there burnt to a crisp.
Yeah, he starts to look like the mobster in Batman when the Joker handshakes him.
Yeah. Oh dear.
Gets out the car, he looks like Beetlejuice.
Or the Nazi in Indiana Jones with his face starts melting. No. But in all seriousness, it could have been a dangerous situation, but it wasn't. Everybody involved was safe, and Nico Hulkenberg did manage to jump clear of the car from the nose cone, which is something we haven't seen for a while, I don't think.
I suppose if it proves anything, it proves that the nose cones are fairly resilient.
Yeah, I mean, Formula One drivers can.
Pastor Maldonado proved that a while ago.
Yeah. I'm going to test how strong this is. So, yeah, I mean, Renault, it was.
What, are you testing the car, Pastor? No, the world.
Exactly. How strong is the world? Carbon fibre is the hardest substance known to man.
But, yeah, double retirement for Renault. I mean,
disappointment as an engine supplier as well.
yeah. The only thing you can say is if they're saying they got it wrong with the engines, because I don't know if it was Hulkenberg's engine that was the issue or just the way that the wiring was done. Sainz was definitely the engine.
Yeah.
Gasly all weekend.
Well, he got very few laps in, didn't he, in that Toro Rosso?
I think he had 12 laps before the race.
And said that he felt very unprepared.
It's Gasly.
Yeah, which is it was ghastly for Gasly, yeah.
And Brendan Hartley, of course, second penalties in his second race because of engine replacements, and then the engine didn't last.
He caught fire in quite a big way.
Fire and flames and everything.
And proper fire extinguishers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were that powerful they nearly knocked the car back onto the circuit.
Yeah, again, we haven't seen fire extinguishers like that on trackside. That's
Since Baku.
Yeah, but I mean, since Baku, but I mean,
when a Renault was on
engine
fire.
went on fire.
it's reminiscent though. So whenever you see fire extinguishers, I always think straight away of like the early to mid '90s when cars just caught fire because it was a nice day. because that happened quite often.
The sun's out, but the engine isn't.
Yeah, Gerhard Berger doing his old, I'm winning the race. Oh, hang on, I forgot. I'm driving an unreliable Ferrari. I'm on fire again.
Yeah, I remember the original Microprose Grand Prix game, and I think I did one season on that, and then got fed up of it because I was driving a '94 Benetton. And every race, the car burst into flames. I was like, I can't be bothered with this.
Even Jos Verstappen only managed to burst into flames once. In the '94 Benetton.
It wasn't his fault, though.
No. Oh, was that '95?
No, it was '94. It was when they cheated.
Yes.
And only got found out when the fire happened.
Yeah.
Is this what Renault are doing? But yeah, moving on to Toro Rosso. Gasly got a finish on his return.
Yeah.
It was good to see that he actually managed to do the race after. I mean, he didn't do FP1 because Sean Gallale was in his car.
Yeah, but he had a good fight though, didn't he, with a couple of drivers? We've seen Pierre Gasly take the fight to other drivers, which is something we didn't know whether or not we'd see. It's taken him 2 races to really get stuck into it, and he was fighting. I mean, he was unprepared. The car wasn't great. His teammate caught fire. He was one of only, was it 2 or 3 Renault cars who actually finished the race?
One, the other was a tag.
Well, fair enough, yeah.
I feel for Toro Rosso drivers that get that seat now.
Yeah.
Because the cars...
I mean, that's 2018's lineup essentially, isn't it? But they're just sort of...
Yeah, but 2017 car is a bit of a shit show. And I can't see a lot getting better for them in 2018 once they've all of a sudden strapped a Honda engine into the back of it.
Well, I don't know, because, I mean, Honda seem to have had their one reliable weekend of the year this weekend. So maybe
they had a reliable weekend, but as soon as you got a car behind it with a different engine, they went past it and broke the... it was like there was jet engine in it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to McLaren in a bit, but there was one part where I think it was Stoffel Van Dorn was passed by Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
And Van Dorn went under DRS from being a speck in the distance to being behind Lewis Hamilton, like within 2 or 3 seconds.
Alonso looked good in Mexico.
McLaren didn't look great. McLaren yet.
No, I'm just saying. As far as the engines go, I don't hold much hope for Toro Rosso.
It does. I've got to say, it doesn't look good, but nothing's going to look good with a Honda engine until Honda prove that they can make an engine.
Yeah, I'm just more thinking about the way that Toro Rosso and Red Bull chew drivers up. So an uncompetitive car that you slam two brand new drivers into might not do anybody's career any good.
Maybe this is why they're giving Gasly and Hartley the last 3 races of this season as a team.
Yeah.
Just to see how they can do in a car that works. And
much like...
It benchmarks them, doesn't it, against Kvyat and against Sainz, who are known quantities.
If they know Simon Sainz is gone, so there's a seat there. But if they know they're not keeping Kvyat, it makes sense not to have him in the car. Why?
Well, he's been fully dropped from the Red Bull program, so much so that he's now on the Williams list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, we'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the argument of having two drivers in a car at the back, which doesn't allow them to show their full potential. I mean, we saw it with Manor last year with Wehrlein and Ocon. We knew they were good. We weren't quite sure how good they were. We've seen it in Manners of the past as well, with Stevens and Mary. No idea how good
Rossi.
Yeah, Alexander Rossi. No idea how good he could have been in Formula One because Manor.
Yeah.
Sauber.
And Mary looked like he could have been a decent driver.
Yeah, he could have been. He's back in Formula 2 now, standing driver.
Yeah, he's had a couple of F2 races towards the end of the season.
Yeah. And it's the same with the driver lineup at the moment with Sauber. We're pretty sure Marcus Ericsson is terrible.
He wasn't too bad this weekend, though.
No, that's what I was going to get to.
Well,
that's what I was going to get to.
I was going to say, moving on to Sauber, Marcus Ericsson qualified faster than Pascal Wehrlein and both Haas cars.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which...
Haas were a fucking joke this weekend.
They were.
Apart from their 8th place.
Kevin Magnussen.
But in qualifying...
Up until Sunday, they were just...
Mm-hmm.
They might as well not have been there.
Yeah. Dog's dinner for Haas, but I mean the Sauber performance, given that they've been so far off the back of the rest of the pack, was impressive, and we actually saw Marcus Ericsson take quite an aggressive strategy for a change rather than be quite conservative and we were going to hope for a safety car or hope for an incident and see how far up we can get. He actually went quite aggressive and for a while looked like he could score points. Now Peter, who commented on our Facebook post today, wants to discuss about driver contracts, in particular Sauber. Now there's a lot of conjecture, speculation around Sauber that they'll run 2 Ferrari young drivers next year, Charles Leclerc and Antonio Giovinazzi. Have Pascal Wehrlein and Marcus Ericsson done enough to hold on to their seats? I mean, whether or not they do, have they done enough to warrant being in the conversation to retain their seats?
No. How can you tell?
That's the thing. There's no way of knowing. We still don't know how good Pascal Wehrlein actually is because he's driven 2 complete sheds while he's been in F1.
And sort of held his own against Ocon, but Ocon was there for half a season
Ocon
less
was
than
a
him.
Proper rookie, though.
Yeah.
And I see the thing with Wehrlein is he's not exactly blown the doors off Ericsson. He's been ahead of him more often than not, don't you know? But he hasn't trampled him. It's not what you'd
perhaps
expect.
Should have done.
Yeah. So I don't think I never see him in a Mercedes. I just don't see that in it at all.
I've got a theory for later why you'll never see Wehrlein in a Mercedes, and it's not what you think.
Because he'll be in a sports car.
That's what you think, and it's not what you think.
But I just don't think there's any. Sauber are bringing nothing to the dance at the minute. They've got they're not bringing drivers of any caliber. The car's not showing up.
I mean, that's the thing, because everyone that gets into a Sauber that isn't the regular 2 racing drivers is owned by Ferrari.
Mm-hmm. It's Leclerc in it. We think Leclerc's going to be there next year, is it?
Well, Leclerc is he? Has he? I don't think he's been confirmed.
He's not been confirmed, but
he's been doing FP1s.
He's been a Friday driver, and I think he's still got 1 or maybe both Friday mornings to come this season.
I think
Guido van der Garde asked him on the F2 podium in Jerez what it was going to be like driving for Sauber next year.
Yeah.
That wasn't awkward.
No, he should have responded with, "I don't know. You tell me." Oh no, wait, you can't.
I'll have a race suit that fits.
Yeah.
I think it might be interesting
with my name on it.
Because if you get Leclerc in the car, and let's just say, for instance, that he starts doing Wehrlein over, I think that's Wehrlein done, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I reckon that's what. I don't know if that's how it'll work out. I mean,
all depends on what happens with this Williams driver lottery for the seat alongside Lance Stroll, because
Wehrlein's not getting that drive.
Wehrlein is on the list. Paddy Lowe refuses to rule anyone out.
Yeah, he's not.
Yeah, Paddy Lowe refuses to rule anyone out. Paddy Lowe was seen on...
Although he refuses to rule Jolyon Palmer in.
Yeah. But the... the television coverage that we got on Sunday went from having Davide Valsecchi in the drivers' parade, big, loud Davide Valsecchi, Italian, very passionate, loud, shouty man in the middle of the... No, I quite like Valsecchi. In the middle of the Forest-Sol, giving it large, everybody getting involved. And then the next cutscene was a technical analysis from Paddy Lowe.
Talking about air molecules.
Talking about how air molecules pass through radiators. And it was just like, oh, God, this is painfully dull.
Yeah.
Now, normally, somebody talking about air passing through radiators could get away with it. Ted Kravitz, for example, could explain. Well, he's explained things with sweets before.
Yeah.
That worked well.
Yeah.
Ted would be the science teacher you want to go and see. Paddy Lowe would be the science teacher that you wouldn't want to have because you just fall asleep in his lessons.
The leather elbow pads on that guy's teacher jacket have leather pads on their elbows.
It's the same thing as like whoever decided to employ Pat Simmons.
His leather pads have got tweed jackets. Oh yeah. No.
Hello, I'm Pat Simmons. I'd like to talk to you about how suspension works, if that's okay.
Yeah, Pat, I'd rather you didn't. Thanks.
Yeah, I was going to say, no, it isn't.
We've made you chief technical officer for a reason. Go and sit in an office and don't talk to anyone.
No, my theory on why we'll never see Wehrlein in a Mercedes is that Lewis only wins championships if his teammate is or was Finnish. Think about it.
He only wins what? Sorry.
Lewis only
Doesn't
wins world
count,
championships.
We don't know
if his
what
teammate
Nico Rosberg
is or was at one point Finnish.
Well, yeah, he was champion when Kovalainen was in the car.
I like it. I know what you're doing, but there's far too many nationalities in that one man for that to work as a stat.
There's at least 3.
No, there's not. There's one. It's Rosbergian. We made an anthem and everything.
We did.
Charlie Jefferson made a flag.
Yep. And it hurts the eyes.
It hurts the bloody ears.
The anthem does, yeah. The flag stings the eyes.
Would it be like a Commonwealth? It would be, wouldn't it, Rosberg?
The Commonwealth of Rosbergia. Although its flag these days is just a picture of last year's trophy. Everyone has to salute it in the morning.
And the national anthem is just him sobbing.
No, there is the national anthem.
Now it's last year's trophy. The national anthem has been changed to just Nico sobbing quietly into a pillow.
So Ericsson looked good until fire.
Yeah.
Did he outdrive the car, or was that just bad luck?
I don't know. It's hard to tell. I mean, like Dan said, it was really difficult to tell how you can measure these Sauber drivers against not just themselves, but against anyone else in the field.
Drivers.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Because I still maintain Ericsson is not good enough to be an F1 driver because of some of the out-and-out mistakes that he's made.
Even a broken clock is right once a day.
I think Pascal Wehrlein...
Twice.
Broken 20...
I had a 24-hour clock in my head.
Yeah, a broken 24-hour clock is right once a day.
Yep.
Most of the time.
All the time.
Anyway, I think Pascal Wehrlein's a decent driver. I want to... If there was to become a seat available in another Mercedes-powered team, like Williams, for example, if he does get that seat, I think you'll see just exactly what Wehrlein's capable of. But again, we've not really seen it because the first 2 seasons in Formula 1 he's been in really poor cars. He takes opportunities when they come towards him. He has scored points this season in the Sauber, and he did score points last year in that manner.
Yeah. Only got the points this year by default because Ericsson was meant to get them in Baku.
Yeah. Well, no, he already had a point.
He already had the points,
yeah.
but he was meant to have less points than he's got.
Yes, exactly.
He's a bit of a Grosjean, innit? You never get the feeling that Grosjean's actually trying. You get the feeling that
he's there.
Yeah, and Pascal, you feel like he's going around the track and doing what the car can do. But like even though I said Haas were a bit of a shit show, and I don't particularly think Kevin Magnussen's the greatest driver on the track, he was driving for something.
Yeah, there was a few really strong performances this weekend.
And I think Ericsson was a really strong performance this weekend.
Yeah. Until his car let go.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of people looking into strategy as well. Just right tyre choices at the right time, and what was it? The Ultra. The Ultra was easily the best tyre in the end, wasn't it? I think people that brought
it was the fastest by a long stretch.
And I think people that maybe brought more of the harder tyres might have suffered. You know, if we had it there to look down, I think you probably see the guys that had more of the ultras were the guys that got.
Well, Ferrari ran out of supers.
Oh, did they run out of supers?
Yeah. They didn't have any new sets of super softs left going into the race. Although Pirelli said they didn't think that was an issue. The
You got to think though, if they'd have had an extra set of supers to slam onto Seb's car, he might have got a bit closer.
maybe.
Yeah, it could have been the fact that he had to change to softs.
Yeah.
When he came in at the end of lap one. What could he have done on faster tyres?
Yeah. The final decision with Sauber though and their drivers for next year lies solely, really, isn't it, with Fred Vasseur and what he wants to do. I mean, it's going to be really hard for him.
I think it's 50% Fred Vasseur, 50% Sergio Marchionne.
But he's gonna have a really hard time trying to convince Marcus Ericsson's friends that Marcus Ericsson isn't the right man for that team.
Well, apparently, the team aren't happy with him, are they? And I mean, we keep saying friends, but for all we know, it's sponsors. Do you know what I mean? So if someone's not performing,
it's whoever this Longbow Capital is, but that deal's been arranged by Marcus Ericsson's family.
Yeah, but it's at the end of the day, it's a business, isn't it? So if someone's not performing,
It's a trust fund, I think. Not a trust fund. What's it called?
No, but I mean, like, it's a business, as in
Yeah.
buying
Yeah.
into a team
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah,
So you're not going to carry someone that you don't think's performing around when there's that much money at stake.
Yeah, even if it is Ericsson's dad that's one of the major investors, he's not the only investor. There's going to be other ones there. Sorry, Mr. Ericsson Senior, but your son is a real bit crap, and if he doesn't get replaced, we're pulling the money out.
Yeah.
If we're going to invest in Formula One, we'd like to actually get some return on our investment, just for the publicity of seeing our logos on a car that gets shown on TV because it's competitive.
Yeah, and Sauber aren't in the position to do anything but try and make the team better. You know, they need to do something.
Yeah.
Well, they've been on a hiring spree recently in the design and fabrications department. So it looks like...
But they concentrated on their aero.
Manisha Kaltenborn did, which I think was 7 people lining up against a car each holding a hairdryer, and they called that a wind tunnel because that's all they could afford at the time.
And then
but they were the really crappy hairdryers that you get in hotels.
Then someone behind the glass screen with an Etch-a-Sketch.
Yeah.
I heard they just closed a road in Italy and just one of those mountain passes and just waiting for it to get really windy.
I want that now. I want to mock up a wind tunnel and then make a Formula One car out of stickle bricks.
Just throw a bucket of flour over it and see where it landed.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's that's Sauber and
that's Sauber's weekend in a nutshell,
and season essentially. But I mean, they've been trying really hard, and Ericsson did a great drive, but there were other drivers who did really well as well.
I think even Verline did a great drive. He finished 2 laps down, but when you think that Verstappen lapped everyone up to 5th, 6th, 5th,
4th, wasn't it? Vettel was the next car to get lapped.
Let's check some facts.
I think Ocon was the last one not to get lapped.
He was, yes. So
right, okay.
So
it was one place out. So Ocon, so everybody down to 5th was not lapped.
The top 4 hadn't been lapped.
Yeah.
And Verline was only 2 laps down.
Yeah.
On a short lap. That's pretty good going, really.
Oh yeah, I mean, last season you could add another at least 1, maybe even 2 laps to that.
Yeah.
On a circuit this short, yeah, to 4 laps down easily.
Yeah, because you're looking at sort of 1 minute 20.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of fast sections on there. And if the car hasn't got the speed, that's where you're going to lose the time.
It hasn't got the speed, it hasn't got the downforce, it hasn't got an awful lot, that Sauber. It's really hard to see, as we've already said, whether or not the drivers will actually, are measurable against anything, because that car is just not performing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd say in absolute terms, 1 DNF and second to last isn't anything to write home about, but it was a good performance overall. Yeah,
they proved they had the 1 lap pace as well by where they I won't say qualified because they were artificially high up because of all the penalties, but where they finished at the end of Q1.
Yeah,
it's
on the
a strange
timesheet.
circuit, isn't it? It's a strange circuit because it doesn't seem that. I mean, obviously it does matter because the good cars won, but usually you get a circuit which is like either engine reliant or aero reliant. Doesn't seem to rely on anything, does it? Because the cars that didn't have particularly good aero packages were still reasonably competitive.
Yep.
But the cars that haven't got reasonably good haven't got good engines, they were competitive. So it's like more like wheel reliant.
Yeah. maybe it's the ultimate.
Yeah, keeping all four wheels on the track and you'll do all right.
Yeah, maybe it's the ultimate driver test track then. In that case, with the altitude and the car struggling so much, it comes down a lot more to what the driver can do.
Yeah, could well be. Well, talking of drivers, McLaren next. Stoffel in...
Prepare yourself for half an hour of Lee's rants.
Yeah, Stoffel in 12th and Fernando in 10th.
Points for Fernando, and point for Fernando, and what a wonderful battle he had trying to hold off firstly Sebastian Vettel and then brilliantly Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
That was, for me, one of the best on-track battles we've seen this season.
I can't remember, there was one part where Lewis was lining up to pass him, and it was one of those situations where the good guys, when the good guys are battling, that the guy in front that's defending, there's almost a sixth sense of where to put the car before the other car moves. It's just great.
Yeah, a bit like I'm not comparing Alonso to Senna here, but when Senna...
No, Alonso's better.
When Senna was putting his car in place in front of Mansell every turn, I think it was the 92 Monaco Grand Prix. Everywhere Mansell went to put his car, Senna was already there. Already there, every single turn. I mean, Monaco's very difficult to pass out anyway, but Mansell was something ridiculous, like 3 or 4 seconds a lap faster than him all weekend.
While I'm stoking that fire, that was probably because Nigel Mansell isn't the greatest British driver of all time.
No, he never was. He never was. Jackie Stewart held that record for, surprisingly, 44 years.
What?
Yeah.
That's mental.
Yeah. 1973, Jackie Stewart retired as the most successful British driver.
That's crackers.
It is, isn't it? 44 years later, car number 44 becomes the most successful British driver of all time.
Isn't it a shame it didn't happen on Black Friday? That's not racist. That isn't racist.
So you could buy a replica of both cars on the cheap?
Yeah. It'd be great. And a 4K telly.
Or Jackie Stewart's watch. Which was
half of it.
Yeah. Oh no, the Jackie Stewart replica watches, I'm sure they were definitely on sale. Everywhere he went, he was rolling the tartan sleeve up this week.
Doesn't have to, does he? One arm shorter than the other. He did
one
that
sleeve
for the watch.
is not his arms. One sleeve is shorter than the other.
Did it for the watch sponsorships.
Just so everyone can see the watch.
Yep.
Attached to the shortbread tin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
See, we think that's really good. If Lewis Hamilton was to do that, we'd say he was a twat.
Yeah, but he wouldn't do it to show off a watch. He'd do it to show off his latest tattoo.
Probably.
Possibly, yeah. But where were we talking? We were talking about McLaren.
Yeah, we're talking about
McLaren and Lee.
We're talking about McLaren, and Lee got distracted and didn't want to talk about McLaren anymore. So we'll move on to Haas.
Okay.
No, we'll talk about McLaren.
No, go on, move on to Haas.
No,
you don't do your job properly. Don't let me fucking stop you.
Ooh. Stoffel Van Dorn.
Reliable weekend for the McHondas.
Strangely enough, yeah. As we, I made that joke before about how many Renaults retired and how many Hondas retired. The ratio of Hondas to Renaults is a little bit outweighed as well. And like Dan said, one of
the manufacturers won the race.
One of them one of them might have sold an engine to a watch manufacturer who then rebadged it and then sold it. We know what's going on there. Yeah. It's a Renault engine in the back of that Red Bull that won the race, but McLaren.
It's a Honda engine in the back of that McLaren that got Fernando into 10th place from well down on the grid after taking engine penalties.
I don't think it was that. I don't think it was the Honda engine that got him in that position.
It was Fernando Alonso,
and it was a reasonably good car that got that Honda into that position.
Yeah, I would agree with Lee on that point.
Yeah, Honda are actually Hasegawa-san is actually saying that they were surprised by the reliability of the engine. But
it was.
Oh, did anyone see the one of the chief engine guys from Honda helping McLaren out with their extrication test in Mexico?
No.
No drivers were available to help with the extrication test for safety when McLaren were pulled up, because it's random. The FIA decides, you show us how quickly someone can get in and out of your car. Like, well, there's no drivers available. They're all doing
Partying.
They're all doing other stuff. There's nobody here. So they got one of the chief Honda technical engineers to sit in the car with Fernando's helmet on and see how quickly he could get out of the car. He was the extrication test man.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah.
Fernando was unusually upbeat this week as well.
He knows every race that goes by
There's one less
that he has to
with
have
Honda.
a Honda badge on.
Yeah, and we know Fernando's love for Renault, obvious reasons. But I thought, do you know what? After the race yesterday, when I was sat down and I was sort of taking it all in after I switched all the TV off and the laptop was closed from doing the live blog and that, I sat there and I thought, Fernando Alonso. When Fernando Alonso won his last World Championship, Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel hadn't even started in Formula One.
Crazy.
And there are 8 world titles between those two now.
Yeah, it's mad, and it's mad as well when you consider that if you talk about like best drivers in the world and best Formula One drivers of all time, on a pure natural talent, not numbers scale. Regardless of whether he is or not, Alonso's in the conversation for that in my eyes.
He can't not be.
Yeah, and when you consider that, like you say, it's been that long since he's won a world title. I would fucking love him to win a 3rd world title.
It just he knows that McLaren Honda is counting down. He even mentioned the words in his post-race interview. I don't know if anyone saw the pit interviews post-race. That McLaren, he actually said McLaren Renault for 2018.
Yeah.
He said that's what he hopes to be able to give Lewis a little bit more pain than what he was able to afford to give him in Mexico.
For the record, I don't think he's going to be able to.
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
I've got this horrible thought that every time, it's not. There's certain races. We're not really talking a team here, but certain races, there's cars like this weekend with Red Bull could give Mercedes a run for the money and will just clean faster.
Yeah.
But over the course of a season, without a massive rules shake-up, I just can't see anybody taking it to Mercedes over an entire season.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I mean, Alonso actually, at one point, I think it was Saturday, said that they had the best car on the grid.
I think he showed that in qualifying with that. Where was it, 5th?
Fifth in Q1.
Yeah, I mean...
Don't know where the hell he got that from.
He was obviously just allowed to turn everything up for a lap.
Having a bit of fun.
Because he knew that he wouldn't be going out in Q2.
Yeah.
Because they saved everything.
Yeah, well, that was it. He was clearly proving a point there. This is where it could be if it wasn't for the
lack of reliability.
Yeah, I see, but that's another thing as well with that they need to look at these horrible rules. I know we talked about this last week, didn't we? The horrible rules.
Yeah. What was it they said before the race? The cumulative distance in penalties, if they were actually assessed as standard
it was just
boxes.
Stoffels.
Was it just Stoffel?
Just Stoffel. The 219 grid places, which is the equivalent to just over 1 mile.
That's ridiculous. I think Martin Brundle summed it up perfectly. Where I can't remember which team he was talking about in qualifying, but when they said there was a team that said they weren't going to go out because it wasn't worth it for them. And he said, when you've got a team, was it Toro Rosso?
Well, Gasly did, then didn't again.
I can't remember. There was a car.
Yeah, but you can't have a car just sort of sat there going, it's not worth it. Do you know what I mean? What kind of show is that?
Yeah,
I think it might have been if Gasly. That was it. Sorry, what Martin had been told was that they could have got Gasly's car together in time, but they decided against it because it wasn't worth it given the penalties.
Right.
Because he was sat on the pit wall in jeans and team shirts.
Mm-hmm.
Then he disappeared off into the garage, got changed into his racing suit, looked like he was about to get in the car, all this during Q1, and then went and got changed again and sat back on the pit wall.
I have a theory about that.
Go on then.
Because it was just after Martin Brundle had said that Toro Rosso said that they couldn't be bothered going out for qualifying, that all of a sudden that happened. That car was never going anywhere, and it was merely to try and show willing to get rid of, to get any negative thoughts about Toro Rosso not doing anything away. Because then
well, at least they tried. That kind of psychology.
Whereas they didn't try. They were never going out. It was more they were listening to Martin Brundle's commentary, going, "Fucking hell, lads, this doesn't look good for us, does it? Go and throw some overalls on."
But then McLaren
Could have been a case.
Then neither McLaren went out in Q2 because what was the point? Because they were both going to end up at the back of the grid anyway. They'd seen how fast they could go. They got the setup right.
Yeah.
We know the engine works.
As we were saying last week, it didn't save anybody any money because they kept throwing engines in it.
Yeah.
But if you've got 20 places of grid penalties, it makes more sense to spend the time working on the car and not rush.
Totally. I'm not saying the decision not to put the cars out is wrong, because under the current rules, it's totally right to do that. I'm saying that the penalty system is wrong to make it that way.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree the penalty system is just
sucks fucking donkey balls.
It's fucked.
Yeah.
Makes for interesting races.
Does it? Do you not think it would have been more interesting watching Fernando Alonso starting 5th or in the top 10? Because I do. Because if considering where he got there, if you'd have had Lewis and
this is a whole other conversation, isn't it, about engines again?
Yeah.
Which we had last week as well.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
No, but I'm just saying, like, if you had two of the top guys go out and there hadn't been penalties on Alonso and he'd have been up there in what was a pretty well performing McLaren, even without that, what have you got? You've got a pretty brick slow Valtteri Bottas there.
Vettel second.
Yeah, a pretty lackluster Kimi Raikkonen, which came third. I would put Alonso, if he'd have started up near the sharp end, I'd have put Alonso in that third position myself.
Yeah, I don't know if his car would have held out for it because there was such a gulf. We'll talk about it again, as I say, when we get a bit higher up with the teams. There was such a gulf between the Ferraris and then the Force India of Esteban Ocon. It was just the gap was just huge.
Oh, it was huge, but I'm just looking at is the ground Alonso made up from where he was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
some of that was down to shenanigans.
What shenanigans?
3 cars pitting on lap 1.
Yeah, but I mean, 2 of them overtook him.
Yeah.
So those shenanigans.
More than 3 cars pitted on that one. Quite a few pitted on lap 1. Felipe Massa was one of them as well.
There were 5 of them who'd pitted by about lap 3.
Yeah. We'll move on to Haas.
Yes. See, we've done our 20-minute McLaren.
We've done our
segment.
20-minute McLaren, I think. Yeah, that's about right.
I can take that off the list.
Yeah, binary week again.
Yeah,
eventually.
Yeah, but what a wonderful performance from Kevin Magnussen.
That is, I would say, that is his best performance of the season.
Yeah, absolutely.
Certainly relative to how he qualified.
I think it's his best performance in 2 years.
Yeah, racing really hard and staying out of trouble with Felipe Massa and Fernando Alonso earlier on in the race, and just head down. Foot to the floor, and got a really decent finish in a car. We're up to that point on the weekend, as you said before, Paul. Yeah. Looked like a real handful, trouble. Out qualified by the Saubers on pace alone. And that was.
I mean, they were the 2 slowest cars in qualifying.
Yeah, they were, and they were. It took a brave race strategy from Kevin Magnussen. Well, not himself, but the Haas team to get K-Mag where he got, and also you don't get that high on strategy alone. You don't get 8th place purely.
No, you still got to drive it round. Yeah,
great performance from Kevin Magnussen. Regular listeners will know how difficult it is for us to praise Kevin Magnussen, but he did a brilliant job.
Yeah,
he did a very, very good job. Like you just said, Paul, again, binary weekend.
Because the other side of the garage, he might as well have not turned up.
Last finisher.
Yeah, last of all the finishes.
Last finisher, slowest qualifier.
Do you think his head's still down from his argument in the last race? Or the race before, sorry. Where he was told to shut up by his own chief mechanic. Not being funny, if your chief mechanic tells you to shut up, like over team radio, then there's friction there.
I think that might make the difference between 9th and 10th place. It doesn't make the difference between
8th and 15th.
But when you're already, like... I would say that he's a fragile driver.
He's too emotional.
Yeah.
And
I think it's the Mexico circuit suits some drivers a lot better than others.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Which is why you've got Ericsson and Magnussen putting great performances in.
A Stroll, which we'll get to.
Yeah, we'll get to that as well. But
It's a tough one for this one, isn't it?
No, it isn't really, because remember when Romain Grosjean said, "I'm going to Haas because I want a Ferrari drive."
Yeah.
This is not the drive that gets you that Ferrari drive.
No.
It really isn't.
Maybe he was going for like a Ferrari sports car drive.
He'd be lucky to get that at the moment.
Another season like that, and I think we will be seeing the last of him in F1.
Quite possibly. I mean, he's already signed up for next year.
Yeah,
so,
has to keep in the same lineup for next year.
Yeah.
Have to go back. Maybe he said, "I'm looking to spend my time," and has to get like a taxi drive.
Uber are recruiting at the minute.
But yeah, I mean, who knows? This could be a turning point for Kevin Magnussen, where he can push on from here, have a decent finish to the season, score some very valuable points for Haas, because we know how tight that midfield battle already is, and use that as a platform to to leap into 2018 and work on always finishing ahead of Romain Grosjean, make himself that number one driver at Haas, because they appear to be quite fond of him at that team. I mean, he polarizes people. He's polarized us in the past, but I'm not. I will put my hands up and say Kevin Magnussen did a wonderful job. There's no denying that.
Yeah, he needs more of them though. Still,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he needs more of them.
Yeah,
but
if he can do it consistently, then I think he will change our opinions of him. Grosjean is doing nothing to dissuade our opinions of
if
him.
anything, he's fucking reinforcing it with like solid iron girders.
Yeah. Yeah, whinging, not as good as he thinks he is.
No.
I mean, it's all well and good for us to sit here and say things like that when I'm sure if you put us in a Formula One car, we'd be about 3 years slower than him. But
Wouldn't make it past the end of the grid.
no,
I wouldn't make it in the car. Don't laugh, Paul.
no, I'm thinking they'd have to sort of resurrect that. What was it, the
Mansell
'95
car.
McLaren where they widened it for Mansell, and
Yeah.
one of us may be able to get in.
Fuck off. They'd have to give me the two-seater and take the back seat out.
I'd love to do one of those days where it's. I mean, you got to pay a ridiculously extortionate amount of money, but one of those days where you can go to one of these tracks and you start off driving like a sporty hatchback, then you go to like a GT car, rear-wheel drive GT car, and then they put you in a single-seater like Formula 4, Formula 3 car, something like that. Then like a GP2 style car before you get into what was like not hybrid now, but the old Formula 1 car, like a V8 style Formula 1. 2009 to 2013 sort of spec
amazing.
Formula 1. That would be incredible.
Yeah. And I would like to announce our Indiegogo.
Yeah, we're not quite there yet.
One of these days. Force India next. Once again, they just get on with it, do it, and I do believe they have now actually secured fourth place.
I think they have, yeah.
Because they will now be allowed to race each other with certain conditions in the last two races of the season.
Yeah, I mean, they always find themselves on a similar part of the track. I mean, they were at one point again in Mexico City, but there
was a car between them, wasn't there?
There was also a car between them at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shame for Perez that he didn't bring the car home ahead of his teammate.
Yeah.
At his home race. But Ocon
Was 6th place for Perez, wasn't it?
7th.
7th place for Perez.
5th for Ocon, 7th for Perez.
Yeah.
We did not predict
course, yeah,
Ocon
sorry.
doing this well at the start of the season.
No, we didn't, but I'd like to remind everyone, yet again, this is only his first full season in Formula 1. Yeah, all right, okay, he raced here.
I thought Ocon would take Perez.
He raced at this circuit this time last
If anybody
year.
could be bothered listening back to old shows,
I'm not saying.
we really should write stuff down so we remember things.
But Esteban Ocon, I think he's a real star in the future, and I had him had him almost nailed on for a podium at one point. I was like, hang on a second, because I was trying to work out the timed gaps between people, which was working out until they had the virtual safety car, and I was thinking that gap from Ocon, I don't think Vettel can make that up. Now, it turns out Vettel did pass Ocon, but I was just unbelievable. At one point, I thought this is Esteban Ocon getting his first podium here, and he's going to get a podium before Sergio Perez, who's been in the sport for like 7 years.
You know what? If Rosberg had retired at the end of this season, it would have been Ocon in the second Mercedes.
I
he has done well enough
Yeah,
in Force India to move up to a big team.
he's done well enough, but I don't see a credible threat to Hamilton being installed in that car. And you see, if Bottas does the same job he does next year, and Hamilton does the same job, and the car's in the same place, I think they'll re-sign Bottas.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, if Rosberg had done an extra year,
I don't think they would have done, because I think Bottas was picked. He was picked because he's not good enough. Well, the last thing you want is an Alonso Hamilton situation,
or even a Rosberg Hamilton situation.
Yeah. The last thing you want is I mean, it's proved this year that Hamilton performs better when he is totally relaxed within the team and he's got no pressure from next door.
And a Finn. Ish. Ish.
Yeah, dear Esteban Ocon, do you have any Finnish relatives?
I'm not sure I agree with you. Last year, Hamilton's performances weren't always great.
Mm-hmm.
The year before, he was amazing. He blew Rosberg out of the water.
Yeah, but I think this is... I'm not saying that he was bad before that. And I still think last year it wasn't Lewis Hamilton that won. It was lost the championship. It was Mercedes that lost it for Hamilton.
I think, just interjecting there...
But he's found a new level this year. That's what I'm trying to say. Because even his qualifying's back.
I think in 2015 and 2016, Lewis Hamilton won the same amount of races both years. I believe that's correct. I will check it soon. But whilst everybody else is talking, but I believe in 2015 and 2016 he won the same amount of races both years. But in 2015, Rosberg's performances were fewer and further between than they were in 2016, and the same with not to blame the retirements and failures for Rosberg. Sorry, for Hamilton's not being able to fight for the championship, but that was a factor that played into it. Much in the same way as what happened in Singapore was detrimental to Sebastian Vettel's title chances this year.
Yeah.
That might have been the biggest understatement you've ever made.
Lewis Hamilton won one less race in 2016 than he did in 2015.
One less.
Yeah, it was 10 in 2015, 9 in 2016. Finished with one less point as well.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, let's kill that one.
Absolutely. No, I was going to say, I'm just thinking that does actually put more on the onus that Rosberg did improve an awful lot in 2016 as well.
Hamilton also had one more retirement in 2016 than he did in 2015.
Yeah, don't forget, it wasn't just the retirements that were the problem. It was the problems he had in qualifying, because there was a load of times that he was totally out of position because something went wrong in qualifying with the car.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But there was the first 4 or so races, was it, where it was Rosberg Hamilton.
Oh yeah.
But getting back onto what we were talking about, the Esteban
Force
Ocon.
Indias.
Esteban Ocon. I think he is in line. He's the heir to the throne, if you will, for Mercedes. When they decide one of their drivers needs replacing, or if one of their drivers decides that they're off and they need replacing, I think Esteban Ocon's the next one in line. I think he's jumped Pascal Wehrlein. I think he's top. I think he's head of the queue. And I don't think George Russell will be that far behind him, so he needs to get a move on if he is going to get himself into that Mercedes seat. But again, it's all victims of circumstance.
It depends whether Mercedes want another German, though. That's the other thing to think about.
Ocon's French.
Yeah, I know, but that's what I mean. I think it'll depend on whether Mercedes are keen on getting another German in the car at some point.
As Pascal Wehrlein.
Yeah, because let's not forget when they came in that they were pretty keen on having an all-German lineup.
Team Germany.
Yeah.
Then they put Austrians in the charge of the team.
Yeah, strange.
Didn't make any sense.
Nothing ever went wrong when Austrians would be in charge of someone in Germany.
Stop it.
You mean the 1984 European Championships?
You know I love me footer.
So on to Williams then. Stroll.
Great.
6th.
Yeah, come on. Great performance by Lance Stroll.
Yeah.
How much has he matured as a driver over the course of this season?
He's gone from zero to hero as far as Williams are concerned.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd go as far as hero, but it's quite
It's
obvious
still
he was
spotty.
brought in too early.
Yeah, but
He probably was brought in a bit too early.
where did he finish in Austin?
I can't remember.
But he's getting
Looks at last week's show notes. Hey, we did keep something for once. 11th.
Oh, so yeah,
Where Massa finished this week in Mexico.
he's heading in the right direction.
He was behind Massa in Austin, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He out-qualified Massa this week.
he
well.
did, yeah. But again, another sort of polarizing team effort, wherein one driver does really well, another driver seems to fall back a little bit further.
Although Massa did have early problems because he was one of the first pit stops.
Yeah, it was at lap 1 or 2. I think he pitted for softs and he got caught up in one on all that sort of driver stuff going on at the back with Sainz and Hamilton, and he managed to stave off Hamilton for a while though, didn't he? Felipe Massa?
Kept him behind for a good couple of laps.
But I mean, Massa seems to be going back the other way. It'd be kind of sad if he doesn't have a drive for next year and he sort of goes out on a bit of a whimper.
Yeah,
that would be a bit sad. I mean, Lance Stroll is doing brilliantly at the moment.
Well, especially with Williams now saying that they hope to announce the lineup for 2018 by the end of this year.
Yes, which was news that was breaking. Was it when we were recording?
Yes, it was.
Week?
Yeah.
So
it looks kind of like Massa's going to be replaced, doesn't it? So
it's heading that way. I mean, he's not done himself any favours with the things that he said. But I'm the only sensible choice. And then Paddy Lowe says, "Oh, we've got this list here, and you're one of the names on it." But
I think the problem is
the list that is growing because Danny Kvyat has now been added to it.
You can't tell Paddy Lowe how to be sensible.
No,
let's be honest.
He's like level 99 sensible. Isn't he?
It's
he's sensible mage.
Yeah, he can do all the top raids.
He's read all the books on how to be sensible and done a qualification in it.
Yeah,
he's wrote all the books on how to be sensible
with annotations.
Yes,
and cited sources. But I think the problem for Williams is when you look at the people they've got in line.
Shall we have driver conjecture time?
I think so.
Go on,
that's my favourite, isn't it? Massa's perfect to stay at Williams, yeah, because they need somebody with that
experience, maturity.
Yeah. But he doesn't seem to have the speed and consistency anymore.
No. Do you remember what I was saying about Williams not taking risks anymore, and all of a sudden they start sliding backwards when they stopped doing that?
Yay, Pasta's coming back!
No. I mean, Lance Stroll was essentially a bit of a risk from FIA Formula 3 European champion to go straight into Formula 1. And that risk does look like it might pay off, but they're too conservative in other areas.
Yeah, the problem, Formula 1's ran out of Nico Hülkenberg.
Yeah, it has fully.
That would be the perfect solution for them, wouldn't it? Between like speed and experience.
Yeah. You're pointing at something.
I am. You've got
the red lights
up there.
They're okay.
They're all right.
That's fine.
That's just the headphone levels that are muted.
That's fine.
I'm seeing things going up and down on the things that should go up and down on the screen.
Mm-hmm. That's fine. You can edit that bit out then.
No, I'm not going to leave it in, warts and all.
Fine. Just keeping an eye on our own podcast.
Just to prove our inexperience. I know what I'm doing. I've read Paddy Lowe's book.
Right.
But yeah, driver conjecture time. Who's not on the list?
Jolyon Palmer is about the only driver from the last couple of seasons that...
Because hasn't Paddy Lowe basically said, if you've got a super license, you're in?
If you've got a super license but not a contract, then you're under consideration.
See, the thing is...
He's not mentioned Palmer by name, that's the thing, because the ones that are being talked about for the seat alongside Stroll next year are Massa, Di Resta, Kubica, Verline, and now Kvyat. Because Paddy Lowe rates Danny Kvyat as a driver.
Yeah.
Does he really want to piss Sebastian Vettel off that much? Possibly.
Yeah, Williams-shaped torpedo for next season.
It's the problem there is the fact that apart from Danny Kvyat, because he's... I mean, what was this year? What was last year his second or third full year in Formula 1?
It was his third, because he did the full season at Toro Rosso.
Yeah.
Half a season between Red Bull and Toro Rosso. Well,
So this year is
one season between the two.
So didn't he have one full season at Red
Oh yeah,
Bull?
he did.
Yes.
Sorry,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
That was that. Yeah, sorry. This was his fourth season.
yeah.
Yeah.
Season at Red Bull, season of getting demoted,
Yeah.
season of getting dumped.
So he's got the experience, but unfortunately that might not go in his favour because it's
Yeah,
not
it's
been
not
covered
the
in
right
glory.
kind of experience.
No.
He's got experience at being worse than Felipe Massa is at being going backwards.
He's got experience of being worse than every teammate he's had.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think he'd be a decent midfield driver, but that's not
not
what
what they
Williams
need.
are after.
No, but also Williams they're not looking for somebody who's over 25 because of the Martini sponsorship.
But Martini now say that's not as important.
Or Williams say that's not as important.
Or Williams say that Martini say that that's not as important.
Is that because Williams rang up Martini and said, "Fucking work with
Because
us"?
under
I would imagine so.
because
yeah.
drivers under 25, you're looking at Pascal Wehrlein and Danny Kvyat. I think Kvyat even though we just said his fourth season, he's still only at 23.
Yeah.
Um,
I think the problem because how many seasons has Verline had?
two.
Two.
One in a Manor,
Yeah.
one in a Sauber.
And he's what 21, 22, something like that.
So he's not got the experience they want really for a lead driver, but I don't believe De Rista has the experience because he hasn't got the experience of modern Formula One apart from like his role as a test driver.
He's been out of the car for
Yeah.
too long.
I mean, what about like coaching Lance Stroll? Though? I mean, that's got to be the main thing of another driver
Yeah.
coming in.
Mhm.
He's learned from Felipe Massa, but he's gonna have to
Maybe
learn
that's
again.
the problem.
He's gonna maybe that is the problem, but he's gonna have to learn again from whoever comes in. He can't be lead driver just yet.
No.
No, too
So-
young, too inexperienced. Can't give the feedback that somebody with 3 or 4 years more experience in Formula One can give.
So, but anybody, all right, okay. So De Resta hasn't been in Formula One, but I think when it comes to driver coaching,
But
somebody who's going to
he's been around Formula One.
somebody who's
He's-
going to be able to give that feedback, and somebody who understands everything about everything almost instantaneously and can relay that back to Lance Stroll.
Yeah.
What
And-
you're doing,
And you know he's a clear communicator as well because of
Absolutely.
the work he does for Sky.
absolutely, he's a very, very precise pundit, and often calls things before we've even seen them on TV.
Yeah.
Like Verstappen's brake failure earlier on in the year. Or Verstappen's gone off and into the barriers, and straight away, Paul de Resta went brake failure. And it was confirmed about a minute later that it was brake failure.
But if he can explain things in a way that us idiots can understand,
Yeah.
he's going to be able to do it in a way that Stroll can understand.
Which is why I think he's the perfect driver to replace Felipe Massa if they replace him. I just hope Williams don't play it, because I said at the beginning of this season that Williams played it too safe by bringing Massa back, and Massa proved me wrong the first half of the season. However, second half of the season Massa has proven me exactly right. I don't think the car is very good, but also Massa's turned into whiny Massa, like leaving Ferrari Massa. Do you remember?
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
racing for the team, I'm racing for myself.
He does that when he's under pressure, doesn't he?
Well, yeah, but I mean, he
It's one of the
doesn't.
reasons I never warmed to Massa, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't need to feel under pressure.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
he does if he wants to stay in Formula One, because he is under pressure to stay in Formula One.
Well, yeah, but if he just drove like Felipe Massa can drive, he would be fine. But I think he's putting himself under that pressure.
Yeah.
And therefore,
Absolutely freaky his and Barrichello's career, though, isn't it?
yeah, massively. He's almost driving himself out of Formula One. Like, he's driving so much at the moment that he's when the last lap at Abu Dhabi, they may as well just like open the gate onto the highway. and
Don't
just-
go into Park Ferme.
No, Massa, you that way.
Keep going, drive
Yeah.
straight onto the plane.
Yeah. Just put that car on the airplane, will you? And don't come back.
I can understand, though, that because I hadn't really thought about it until now. I can understand why they're not making a decision quickly. Because when you look at everybody that they've got available to them, there's no one that actually fits the role that they want.
But Kubica would be wonderful to get eyes on the car and
It's-
eyes on the sport and questions being asked to everybody who's got a Martini or a Williams logo on their shirt.
Lance Stroll just has the Williams logo. He's not allowed to carry the Martini one
Yeah.
for another 6 years.
But the thing is,
course.
Lance has got the checkbook. Lance is where the money's coming from.
Yeah.
They really need someone where the points are going to come from.
Yeah, but
Max. I know.
Is that going to come from Robert Kubica though? Because that's a risk.
Who knows?
Just quickly, which
one.
reminds me,
He's the biggest risk.
I would like to thank everyone in the US that's been in touch with us over the last week, apologising as a country for Scott Speed.
Oh, there's been quite a few people.
We have had about 4 people write into us over the last week, apologising on behalf of all the USA for the fact that Scott Speed exists.
However, Lee did get into a conversation with a listener who said, "Sorry, but Scott's my boy." I'm gonna have to have serious words with Lee. So unfortunately, sir, you were outweighed by all of the apologies.
So 80% of America is in favour of Scott Speed not being a thing.
Well, no, he could be a thing. We don't want to eradicate him from the planet.
All right, a thing behind a wheel.
Just don't. Maybe not Formula One anymore.
I was going to say something profound then, but I've completely lost the thread.
It was about Williams, so it probably wasn't very profound.
No, that is true.
Is there any old drivers? I'm not going to jump on the button train again because that's not happening.
Like Kubica, you mean?
Yeah, but like people that have gone in the last couple of years. That
Rosberg
could.
Rosberg was Williams,
and he's going to stay as a Mercedes ambassador, isn't he?
Well, they got Mercedes engines.
What better way to represent the engine than by driving round in one every 2 weeks?
His race suit is crushed linen now.
He would fit the bill, but I can't
don't
see it happening.
Don't forget, Lawrence Stroll's money comes from clothes. He could have a Tommy Hilfiger crushed linen race suit with a big Mercedes logo on it.
Yeah, it's not happening. I just that's the problem. Like when Kimi came back and he came back for Renault. That would be another perfect scenario if there was a Kimi Raikkonen floating around that wanted to come back to Formula One.
I mean, who have we got that is that? And yes, we are not saying Jenson Button. A serious point. I mean, Pastor Maldonado is still out there. He's 2 years gone.
Yeah, they won't do that again.
He was the last person to win a race for Williams. What could he teach Lance Stroll? Where to put the gaffer tape to hold the car on when you ram it into somebody else.
Yeah.
Adrian Sutil?
Kobayashi?
Probably not Kobayashi.
Vitaly Petrov?
No, I would say probably not.
Sebastian Buemi? Jean-Eric Verne?
Jean-Eric Verne should have had another chance in Formula One. Proven by Danny Kvyat's promotion demotion, they chose the wrong drivers.
I do seem to remember saying exactly those words at the time.
They've
got it the wrong way round.
We all said the same thing. Yeah, we all said they've got it wrong.
But has he spent too long in Formula E?
I don't know. Well, who's being fairly successful in Formula? We've seen a lot of Formula One drivers whose careers
and Nelson Piquet Jr.
Whose careers are either floundered or basically over, and they've started up again in Formula E, which is great for them because it's a new lease of life in a new sport. But we've not yet seen a driver make the switch back the other way.
No.
Is there anybody in Formula E that could come into Formula One?
There are plenty of drivers in Formula E who could come into Formula One, but they're not necessarily the right choice for Williams.
No.
If Williams are wanting to build a team around
a number one driver,
around pushing Lance Stroll as far as he can get, which is what we're assuming they're trying to do,
and also Williams regaining that 4th place as well.
They need someone with serious experience and not someone who looked like they should have had more of a chance than they did.
I think 2 things happened, didn't they, to Williams, which have landed them in this situation. I think they thought, because I remember seeing an interview with Jensen where he was saying that for the last year that he was dead close to signing the contract with Williams, which I think would have been a couple of year deal. Would have rolled into this year as well. So with the Jensen thing that happened, maybe they had a few eggs in the Jensen basket for that.
Quite possibly.
I
remember, was it Lawrence Stroll said about signing Alonso?
See, I think
is that the kind of driver they're after, like an Alonso caliber kind of driver?
I think so. See, but I think when Jensen was going to be signed, I think he'd have been signed into Bottas's seat because of the money Stroll was bringing. He was always coming into that team.
Yeah.
So I think Bottas, because don't forget Bottas is probably the ideal driver for Williams right now, actually. But because he's, in my eyes, he's shown that maybe doesn't deserve to be a Mercedes driver, but he's certainly a good mid-grid.
He's not a good
Formula
Mercedes
One
number
driver.
2, but he'll be a perfectly adequate Williams number 1.
See, I like. I mean, we'll say this when we go further up the grid, but about Mercedes. But I there's still a bit of me thinks. I think I said this last week. I don't think it's out of the question that Bottas might even still find himself in that Williams, and I wonder whether that is why the decision has been left till the end of the season.
So you're saying Bottas goes from Mercedes to Williams? Who takes the number 2 seat in the Mercedes?
No idea.
Well, he
Would
has
that-
got
would
the
that be-
contract for next year, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Of course, contracts can be
Yeah,
unmade.
it was.
He had a contract for this year with Williams.
Yeah, it was Andrew Benson that said that he said, having been a person that used to work for Eddie Jordan, I know exactly what a contract means.
Yeah.
Not worth the handshake it's made
Yeah.
with. Okay, how about this for a situation? Bottas to Williams. Ocon gets promoted to Mercedes.
Well, apparently
Verline to Force India.
Ocon has a pretty cast iron 2 years to do it. Force
Force
India.
Ocon is at Force India because that's where Mercedes have put him.
Yeah, no, it was Crofty that said that on Twitter when someone asked, could Ocon find himself in a Mercedes, and that was the answer.
Right, let's go around the table
I mean,
then.
Ocon started last season at Renault.
No, I know. I'm just saying what Crofty said.
Let's go around the table then. Who's going to be in that other Williams seat that isn't Lance Stroll's?
I'm torn. I think it's going to be split. I think we'll see Kubica in some races, De Resta in others.
That would make sense commercially and also from the Paddy Lowe book of sensibility.
Yes.
But it only makes sense from a make it Lance Stroll's team point
Yeah.
of view.
Yeah.
I don't think Lance hasn't proven that he's the driver to build a team around.
Yeah,
No, but I mean, they'll take both of those drivers, Kubica and De Resta, to every race. They would be at every
and
race.
then play rock paper scissors to see who gets the.
No, I think that would be agreed well in advance.
Rock, paper, squid.
Dan, who do you think it would be?
Squid. Squid.
I reckon it's gonna be someone we've not mentioned. Don't know who.
You think we're missing a trick here?
I think it's going to be someone from left field. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the band.
I think it's going to be Bottas.
Yeah, I think Paul De Resta. So we've all got completely differing opinions.
Mm-hmm.
I think Paul De Resta will get the seat.
And the winner is...
Well, I know we're going to talk about Mercedes quickly.
I want people to just I want everybody listening as well if they've got their own ideas and
tell us
whether they agree or disagree with any of us. And
We all want everybody listening. The entire world should be listening.
of course, yeah. But everyone who is listening to just get in touch with us and let us know how wrong you think we are or how right either one of us is.
Let's move forward because I want to get to Mercedes to explain why I'm right.
We normally do Mercedes and Ferrari together.
Yeah.
With Red Bull beforehand, but I think we need to talk about all the top 3 teams
Right.
in one giant clusterfuck because that's what sort of caused the result.
Yeah.
Should we go from the start of the race? We're doing the start of the race last, which is a bit odd, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's what happened at the sharp end.
Let's do that.
So Lewis got a good start
From third place.
from third.
He got a good toe, put it that way.
Yeah. Max Verstappen got a better start.
Yeah.
Vettel didn't. I don't
Vettel got
think.
a reasonable start.
Yeah.
He didn't get a bad start, but it wasn't quite as good as Verstappen.
That's the thing. It wasn't as good as
Well,
the guy next to him and the guy behind him.
he did, but Verstappen got the toe as well as Lewis.
And then going into turn 1, okay, this is how I see it. Going into turn 1, Vettel defended very well against Max Verstappen. But Verstappen, rather than backing out, realised that Vettel had given him enough room to not leave the track completely.
Yeah.
So didn't back out of the move,
Yeah.
which he was completely entitled to do. And then going into turn 2,
Vettel didn't defend very well against Verstappen and almost ran a little bit too wide, giving Hamilton the slingshot move
Great move from Hamilton
to
there.
pass Verstappen.
I think you are missing out the part there where Verstappen ran over the half of Vettel's front wing.
That's a little bit.
Wasn't it?
That's in turn 2.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, in turn 2 where
I thought
Verstappen.
we were there. Carry on.
Verstappen and Vettel did have a little bit of a touch.
A bit of carbon fibre came
A
off.
little bit of carbon fibre came off, and then going into turn 3, as Hamilton got the slingshot out of turn 2 to pass Verstappen.
Yeah.
That's when all hell kind of broke loose, because Vettel then got he passed Vettel, not Verstappen. Vettel then got the understeer, which caused his front wing to hit Lewis Hamilton, and then everything carbon fibre up in the air. Shenanigans, broken things.
But I think
championship decided.
Yeah, we can say to our listeners, though, that regardless of silly theories, we all think
Wasn't deliberate.
No. He came in with less downforce because he had a big chunk missing off his front wing.
Yeah.
Got all crossed off, up, understeered into Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing you could do about it.
No.
Yeah. I have seen some people saying, why didn't Vettel get a penalty? Verstappen would have gotten a penalty. So, well, it was a racing incident. He didn't do it on purpose.
I was going to say, he didn't aim his car at Lewis's back end. He just ended up having to go wide because he couldn't.
He did steer left towards Lewis, but that was to stop him from spinning in front of everyone else.
Yeah.
Which, when you're fighting for a world championship, is not what you want to do.
No.
He's done it before, though.
Well, he has, in Brazil in 2012, when he decided he was going to start the race going backwards.
This is too easy. I think I'll give myself a bit of a challenge.
I think the other thing people need to realise is when those cars, when he's essentially losing it, he's all crossed up. Whatever is going through his hands is all fucking autopilot, isn't it? He's not thinking about that. That's sheer talent and experience.
I'm losing the back end. This is what I've got to do to the steering wheel to keep the car pointing in the right direction.
Even that is too much thinking. It's not thinking, it's feel.
And then Lewis Hamilton.
That's feels wrong. Move hands.
Yeah.
Lewis Hamilton got out of the way onto the grass to make sure that he didn't get hit by any of the other cars coming through. But
didn't get a penalty for cutting track limits.
No, because he was going very slow. Didn't gain an advantage. No.
Yes.
As he was off the track,
he
though.
did, because none of the other cars hit him.
I'd call that pretty advantageous, to be honest.
Well, you could argue that point, I suppose.
Didn't gain an advantage. Still alive, aren't you? That's an advantage.
But the all the other drivers are still alive too, so it's not really an advantage over them. But what happened when Lewis Hamilton was trying to make his way back to the pits because he took
Has anyone checked for Grosjean's vital signs? Is he moaning? Yes, he's moving.
Yeah. when Hamilton made his way back to the pits, that's when he caused the damage to his floor and his the diffuser and quite large gouges to the underside of his car apparently, which caused him to be aerodynamically deficient, especially when he was trying to cut his way back through the field. It wasn't.
The rest of us would have said not be as good. You've got your Ron Dennis head on tonight, haven't you?
Yeah.
Sorry. The cranial fittings about your person are in the Ron Dennis mould.
Correct.
For our other listeners, his whizzy was hampered.
So, it wasn't Vettel that caused the damage to Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton taking evasive action, making sure he didn't get hit by any of the other cars coming through. That's what caused the damage, because his flat tyre obviously put his car so close to the ground, pretty much on it, that caused the damage, which, as you suspected, Dan, yesterday when we were doing the live blog, was the reason that he was a little bit slower at cutting through the field than Vettel was.
Yeah.
And it did take him a long while to get past Carlos Sainz in that Renault.
And people have said that was the Mercedes car can't follow. No, it was damaged Lewis couldn't do anything.
Yeah, when I said that it can't follow, I really didn't know how much damage that he'd taken until we saw at the end of the race a close-up that Ted Kravitz from Sky got at the back of the car, where there was half the diffuser missing.
But even so,
loads of shit there, wasn't there? I mean, there was people saying, Lewis can't make his way through the grid. I'm not being funny, but if you can seriously stand there and question Lewis Hamilton's overtaken, you need to stop watching Formula One.
Well, when Valtteri Bottas is ahead of him and lapping people and
Yeah.
doing that
Lapping
perfectly
Lewis
easily.
Hamilton.
Yeah.
It's not the Mercedes that's the problem there.
No.
No, I mean it was on that first set of tyres. It was a good sort of second to a second and a half down on the leaders,
Yeah.
and
And struggling with temperatures as well.
Well,
Yeah.
I was saying to my dad while we were watching the race, like that to me just screamed the car was damaged. You know, it's I didn't need a picture from Ted Kravitz to tell me that.
yeah,
No.
it was just the extent of the damage that
Yeah.
it showed, because there was a lot more on one side of that car than there was on the other.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
it should have been equal. Danny Rick. Apparently they didn't plumb the turbo in properly.
No. I think we had a little pre-podcast conversation, Lee, about what Danny Rick could have done. I'm with you on this. I think Danny Rick could have put that as a Red Bull 1-2 because he was flying. I mean, yeah, all right, he started right now.
I think he'd be
the back.
nailed in for a podium at least.
He was flying before that car let go on him.
I think it got up to 8th, hadn't he? When it
Sixth.
was it 6th?
Yeah, we got up to 8th at the end of the first lap, second lap, from starting 16th. And then so it made up half the field in 2 laps.
Yeah.
And we'd want to talk about somebody cutting through the field. Danny Rick showed how you do it, whilst we were all busy watching replays of Vettel and Hamilton playing.
Tag.
Yeah.
Would have been interesting to see as well in clear air if he could have got up there. What his times would have been like in comparison to Verstappen as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Might have been able to give Max a bit of a run for his money. At least made it a little bit less comfortable for Max, perhaps.
Yeah, we were robbed of a really good race this weekend.
I think it was a really good race. It wasn't like a classic fight for the win, but
that could have been a 3-driver for the win race.
But the fact that you had both Vettel and Hamilton, stopping so early on. I mean, at one point it looked like Hamilton was out of the race, but to see both of those fighting through the field, and you get to the point where you see, is Vettel going to be able to make that top 2, or he's going to have to rely on a safety car or a retirement, or that gap between Ocon and Raikkonen is huge. He's not going to be able to make that gap up if he gets past Ocon, and it was. Trying to work it out whilst it was going along, it was tense. It was really tense. And then as soon as Hamilton broke past Alonso and he was up into the points, it was just like, well, even if one of those top 2 drivers has a problem and they retire, Hamilton's already in the position he needs. If Vettel does finish second, Vettel needs them both to drop out now.
Yeah.
And it played out the way it played out.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Bottas would have, even if Sebastian was 20 odd seconds behind Kimi, if Bottas would have happened to have gone out of that race, I think he'd have made those 20 seconds up really, really fast.
Well, we were saying,
as in like half a lap.
We were saying that if the opportunity arises, it'll be Kimi's got a puncture. We need to a really long pit stop for Kimi.
They wouldn't even have to do that. It's allowed.
Yeah. You don't have to say you don't have to say things like brake problem. Anymore.
Yeah.
I was glad they didn't swap them anyway, because I think Ferrari of old would have done. It would have just Seb's our man. Yeah. He's the one that gets the podium.
Yeah, but I mean, all this talk earlier on in the season of calling Kimi Raikkonen a laggard, and he's no good for us. He's too slow. And then Kimi Raikkonen he didn't really react to that, but he's just been Kimi Raikkonen. And Kimi is a temperamental driver. He needs everything to be perfect, otherwise he's nowhere near. But he was pretty damn good on Sunday.
I think even if Sebastian would have been up there, Kimi was quick enough to give him a run for his money.
Yeah, I think so.
I just don't think that Ferrari wasn't actually quick enough in race pace to win that race, no matter who was behind the wheel.
No, Max had that.
Yeah, I think it would have been interesting to see Hamilton behind him, see if he could have done anything about him.
Yeah. And Valtteri Bottas, fine. He was 12, 20 seconds off the pace at the end of the race.
Another great move at the start while all of the shenanigans was going on.
Mm-hmm. Put himself out of danger. Took second place comfortably.
Yeah. Yeah, he managed to avoid everything that was going on with cars in front of him, whilst passing cars that were passing the cars that were coming together.
Yeah.
And he just sort of acquired second from nowhere.
That's it.
And it was a good move. And then he just did the perfect the perfect wingman thing, because he wasn't pushing the car because there was no point.
Yeah.
What what did Mercedes have to gain from him winning the race?
No, I don't think he could. I think he probably was pushing the car. I don't think he was quick enough, and I think that's why he was upset on the podium, because he looked really down on the podium, and I think that was because he could do absolutely nothing.
I don't know
against the car in front of him.
Yeah, I don't know if that was the case or whether Mercedes were like, you know what, we're thinking about this championship at the moment, because I've seen complaints from some viewers that, well, both championships are settled now. What's the point in the last two races? What the point in the last two races is now is to settle other championship positions. Valtteri Bottas is now only 15 points behind Sebastian Vettel. Now, he's been close at times. We thought, oh, hang on a second, Bottas might take second, but then Bottas faded away a little bit mid-season. All of a sudden, with all that's been going on with Vettel the last few races, there's a real possibility for Bottas to take second in the championship. What a pain in the ass that would be for Ferrari and for Sebastian Vettel if if Hamilton is now Bottas's wingman, and Hamilton our rear guard whilst you go out in front and
I don't think that is in Hamilton's mentality.
Possibly not, but he's
but
already sealed the championship, so if you could help Valtteri Bottas get second, and he'd be like, well, the title fight this year was between Hamilton and Vettel, but Vettel ended up finishing third in the championship.
Do you know why he won't do that? Because he'll remember how important it was for Nico to win those last few races when he checked out.
Yeah, but I wonder if maybe after the summer break, Mercedes changed the way they approach the races and put the setup on the car that supports Lewis a lot more than Valtteri.
Yeah, but he hasn't. Bottas hasn't been in a position to help Lewis. He helped Lewis because he was up there and got a podium this weekend.
No, but I mean, if they've done something to the car that
is more beneficial for Lewis,
benefits Hamilton, and Bottas struggled because of it.
In update wise,
set up.
Yeah.
So
Valtteri, this is the car you're going to drive this weekend. It's just like, well, if you do this to it, it might be faster. Yeah, but this is the car you're driving this weekend. Yeah, but I can make it faster if you just change. Valtteri, this is the car you're driving this weekend.
I don't believe that. I don't believe they purposely tie a hand behind a driver's back, because they know as soon as they knew Hamilton was the guy to go for the championship. It was ridiculous for them to swap the positions around when they did, because they could have lost the championship by that, but it didn't matter in the end because Ferrari fell away. But I think this is why I think he'll end up in Williams next year, is that he knows, and that car, that Mercedes should have been closer to the Red Bull this weekend.
Yeah.
There was nothing in front of him. There was nothing behind for him to defend from. Yet he could not get anywhere near Max Verstappen.
No.
And that's not right. You can't. Remember what we've always said when we talked about Hamilton and Rosberg?
Yeah.
If one of them wasn't winning the race,
the other one was.
The other one was. Bottas looks incapable of winning a race if all the top guys don't fall out.
Yeah. Oh. Lee feels so strongly about that. He's just punched his own microphone.
Yeah, take
is
that.
Is that like the mic drop when the mic's fixed to the desk?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
You literally, I'm going to drop you. Bang.
But I mean,
that's what Mercedes will be saying to Valtteri Bottas if he's not careful. No, I don't think they'll do it just yet. I think it's very telling that Mercedes only signed Valtteri Bottas on another 1-year deal. Who remembers? Who could forget Eddie Jordan's horrific Russian Grand Prix podium interview?
No, go on.
Give him a 5-year deal. Why? Because he won the Russian Grand Prix? No. Yeah. Mercedes would normally sign drivers 2 years at a time, 3 years at a time, maybe. They offer Bottas a 1-year contract, and he's done all right.
And it's not even like the we've got an option for a second year.
Yeah, he's done all right with after his first year, and they ummed and they hard a little bit. Let's not forget that either. and they eventually decided to offer him another 1-year deal.
But I don't think he's done as well as that car can do. That's my problem with it.
I would agree with you, but
You know, we always say Rosberg.
yeah, but Rosberg built that team from scratch,
But what we'd always say about Rosberg, because Williams used to say this.
not by
and
himself. But
It's
yeah.
been a thing with Rosberg's driving that teams liked him because they knew maybe he couldn't outperform the car, but he could put that car where it deserved to be all the time. Whereas I think Bottas puts that car slightly behind
Where it
where
should
the
be.
car deserves to be. And that for that reason, I've decided that
That he's fired.
he's going back to Williams, and they're going to give Pascal Wehrlein that year, and they're because there's such a big shake-up. This is why I don't
I
think.
don't think they'll give Wehrlein a year yet in Mercedes.
No, but the reason that they've only given Bottas that 1 year, and this is the reason Ocon isn't going to get in the car anytime soon, is because of all the drivers that are out of contract at the end of next year. And I still think you're going to see Ricciardo in a Mercedes.
That could well be the case. Ricardo in a bigger team.
Yeah.
We've said, haven't we, before about the top three. Your classic top three: Hamilton, Vettel, Alonso.
Yeah.
The fourth driver for me would probably have to be Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah.
And he I'm not saying that Red Bull are not a big team, but put him in a Ferrari or a Mercedes as they have been this year, and I think you will see Daniel Ricciardo join those three as the most highly regarded drivers.
I think Verstappen's up there as well.
Yeah,
I think he will be very, very soon. Yeah.
Which is another good reason for Ricciardo and Verstappen not being on the same team, because it's been proved time and again that you cannot have two World Championship contenders in the same team, because you will end up
But in that
either
case,
with a fight or nothing.
you can't move him to Vettel's Ferrari, and you can't move him to Hamilton's Mercedes.
I think the difference with Red Bull and Mercedes is Mercedes have proven that they are quite willing to let two drivers do their best. The problem I would have if I was Daniel Ricciardo is the fact that when Max Verstappen signed, Christian Horner said, well, it proves the faith that Max has in Red Bull, and he's willing to stay and build the team around him. So that team is going to build itself around Max Verstappen.
Well, he's signed to 2020, which is quite a long contract, and I suspect one of the terms would be, it's my team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think going back to what Dan was saying then about Verstappen joining those highly regarded drivers in Formula One, I think he will get there, but we've seen some spectacular moments from him, but not his fault either. The car has let him down this year a lot.
Absolutely.
I know Vettel re-signed this year, didn't he, till 2020?
2019.
But I would be massively surprised if, given what's happened to Ferrari this year,
Well, that might be 2020.
From what we expected from Ferrari to the Ferrari we've got, which is essentially 2012 Fernando Alonso Ferrari.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if that contract doesn't have a performance clause in Vettel's favour for next year. So if he has another year like this in Ferrari, where it's just another nearly year for the red team, that he can switch.
What's that statistic again? Is it Alonso's 8 points away from being a 5-time world champion?
Ifs, buts. What was it Murray Walker used to say? If is F1 spelled backwards.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Stunning drive from Max, though. Got in the lead.
And held it.
Um,
Pulled out a big gap.
Yeah.
Was told to slow down twice.
Yeah.
Said he couldn't.
I'm really sorry. Was laughing.
Apologised for not slowing down once. Apparently he was bored. This is going back to Vettel when he was winning races in the Red Bull, because he said he'd got out front and he was just bored.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember when Rocky used to tell Sebastian Vettel, all right, knock it back a little bit, and then the final lap of the race would be the fastest lap by Sebastian Vettel. That era from 2011 right the way up to 2014, that was just what Sebastian would do.
Yeah.
Every time he was leading a race, he put the fastest lap in on the last lap of the race.
Yeah, I've just sat around for the last 3/4 of an hour. Can I have some fun now?
Yeah.
I tell you what, I actually think that Max is more impressive than that Vettel we're talking about, because Vettel was really good at getting in front and breaking the DRS zone and then cruising off into the distance. Whereas, especially during that time, we didn't see a massive amount of racing from Vettel. In fact, we saw him come into contact with cars more often than not when he was wheel to wheel. Obviously, the guy can race because he drove a great race this weekend.
Of course, yeah.
But I think Max has shown similar speed to what we think of as quick Vettel, but better racing. He's kind of like a Vettel-Hamilton hybrid.
Yeah, he's got that weird sort of knowledge that I don't know how he manages it. He knows that how much pressure exactly to put on his brake pedal, depending on which line he's forced to take.
Yeah, that save that he did in Brazil last year.
Yeah.
Yes.
There is no way that car should have been on the track going forwards after that.
But it was his radio message afterwards that was scary.
Yeah.
Like it was not like it was just like, whoa, that was a big moment. Whereas the rest of us would be pulling into the pits the next lap. I need to change my underwear. Max Verstappen, that was a bit scary. We carried on.
Talking of things going wrong with the seats, Lewis complained on the radio when just after the start that the seat was too hot and the team didn't cool it enough.
Oh right.
Don't know if anybody noticed that.
No.
They do cool the seats before the race.
Yeah.
I think that was before the start. That was just after we'd got into the car.
Oh, was it that early on?
Yeah.
I suppose when you consider all the friction, the heat from the engine and stuff like that, the last thing you want to do is start hot.
Yeah.
Or get a shock like Vettel did when the fire extinguisher went off.
Yeah.
And he thought it was acid at first.
Did he?
Yeah, he said I think there's acid. Then got back into the pits, got out of the car bloody quick. Turned out it was a fire extinguisher that had gone off and drew a perfect negative of the Canadian flag on the back of his overalls. He had a maple leaf on his arse. See if you can find a photo of that somewhere.
Yeah, fire extinguisher that went off. But if you think about the way that the hybrid technology runs as well, you have so many radio messages saying temperature's critical, things like that. You've got hot batteries, you've got turbos that are then sucking out the hot air that comes out of the engine, the gases, and then trying to cool it before sending it back through the engine again for this hybrid efficiency. There's a lot going on, and there's going to be a lot of heat generated, like a few inches behind the driver's head. So for your seat needs to be cool.
Do you know what? I realise it's a loaded thing come from Christian Horner, but I totally agree with what he said this weekend, that the hybrid engines have done nothing, have brought nothing to the sport, and he can't wait till they're gone.
I half agree, half disagree.
You do realise by the time we release this, they will have actually announced the basic framework for the next engines from 2021.
Well, they're threatening to announce it tomorrow.
That's
Tuesday.
the 31st.
Yeah, we record this on a Monday night, of course, for those who don't know. But, yeah.
I tell you what, if they do, and they put it... let's just say, for instance, that it's going to be some sort of V6, like, naturally aspirated thing. It's... what a great move for Formula One to get that out now to try and attract
the engine
manufacturers. Especially, that suggests that they're going to have to do that because...
I said this on another podcast that I was on last week. Sorry, guys, I did cheat on you last Tuesday night on another show.
Are we seeing other podcasts now?
Lee's been seeing other podcasts for about a year.
But this was another podcast where I was talking about Formula One.
Okay.
Must see audio. Go and download it.
But I think the new engine regs are already known because Aston Martin wouldn't be putting that much effort into getting people if they didn't know if they didn't have a damn good idea what it was going to be.
Well, this is what I was going to say. I don't. When Christian Horner says those engines have brought nothing to Formula One, and I can't wait till they're not here anymore. That doesn't say that. That's not a. I really hope they're not here anymore.
No, that's going to be.
That's going to be. Categorically, these fuckers are gone.
He will have a naturally aspirated Aston Martin engine in the back of the car of the team that he runs.
Yeah. See, I kind of understand it.
Or at least that's what they'll be fighting for.
Well, let's face it. If there's rumours it's going to get released tomorrow, then he knew when he said that.
Yeah.
This weekend.
Which is why I'm saying it's going to be released to the public, but those in the know
I think that's why
they're
Honda's
already
staying around. I think that's why Honda hasn't when McLaren got rid of Honda. I think that's the reason that Honda took up Toro Rosso and are staying in the sport.
Formula One will have said to Honda, "This is what's going to happen."
Yeah. So that Honda, this was my theory last week, wasn't it? That Honda aren't going to improve because you're going to get the new engines that are going to come out, and so there's not going to be any point pouring hundreds of millions into developing an engine that is going to go in 2020.
Yeah. Hybrids suck. You've only got to make 3 more.
Yeah.
That's it. But can we just take 2 seconds to address the fact that Lewis Hamilton is the world champion for 2017?
Yeah.
Congratulations, Mr. Hamilton.
All right, okay. He didn't do it in the most perfect way, but he,
First driver to be confirmed as world champion when a lap down since James Hunt in 1976.
And I think James Hunt finished third in that race.
Yes.
So that's a big gap. That was Japan as well.
That was
wasn't it?
that was at Fuji.
No, he
Yeah.
can't have done, because back years ago when Formula One was racing,
Yeah.
it was racing up and down the field, and they were all bunched up together, and it was overtakes every 10 minutes.
No, less than that, every 10 seconds.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. But no, I think James Hunt managed to finish third in that race and was lapped. So that just goes to tell you how spread out the field was that particular day.
Well, yeah, there was a car on special monsoon tyres.
Yes. Yeah, which
So-
that was a thing in the 90s as well, wasn't it? Monsoon tyres. But they didn't really use them.
Because there weren't any monsoons.
No. But the...
what are they going to do? Bring them out in Bahrain?
Exactly, yeah. But the bottom line is Lewis Hamilton has won the 2017 World Drivers' Championship.
He's been the most consistent driver in the most consistent car.
He has. I mean,
That's how championships are won.
Yeah.
we've seen quite a few comments again on the Facebook post that I put up earlier on today about people asking, hang on a second, all these, I've seen a lot of posts and people saying that Hamilton's the best driver of all time. What is this? This happens when people win world championships.
Yes.
When Nico Rosberg won the world championship, it's like, well, is Nico Rosberg better than Sebastian Vettel? Well,
No.
no, he's not. No, he's not.
Well, the combination of him and his car were better than the combination of Sebastian Vettel and Sebastian Vettel's car last season.
Correct. Yeah. And when Hamilton won, was it his first championship with Mercedes, I think it was in 2014, I remember that there being newspaper articles saying like, well, Mercedes are going to dominate the sport for the next 10 years and Hamilton was going to win all 10 titles. It's like, well, no, you can't say that. You don't know that right now.
I tell you what, I think it's worth 50 quid to say that if these is it 2020 the engine regs can
2021 is
right.
when 2020 is the last year of these current-ish engine regs.
Spec engines with these number of parts.
There's a slight change at the end of next year, but it's not a huge thing. We should probably learn tomorrow what the slight change going into 2019 will be.
I think Lewis Hamilton can win every race until they change the engines. So not win every race, can win every championship.
I'll say that's a brave £50 bet.
He is a good enough driver to do it, and if he's got the car under him, yes. But
I think you can, but there's going to be other people who can stop him doing that as well.
I don't think it's going to be, because there should have been this year. And Ferrari couldn't do it with what apparently they had help.
Yeah, but until the summer break this year, we were saying how wonderful it was that we didn't have any idea who was going to win the world championship. We didn't even know who was going to win the race when we went to when the F1 went to a different circuit.
Yeah, but I think slowly through the course of the season,
the second half has been Hamilton's.
But we've learned that no matter what Ferrari turned up with, this is what I mean. I'm not saying that every single race Mercedes are going to turn up with the best car. But all they need to do is do it in most of the races.
Yeah.
But bear in mind that both Ferrari and Mercedes had the trick suspension at the start of the year, which they weren't allowed to run with.
It was Red Bull, wasn't it? Mercedes. And Ferrari were the ones that complained about it.
Oh.
So that
I got that wrong. So just edit that, will you, Paul?
That backs up.
Yes, I will.
That backs up the theory that Mercedes should have been even stronger.
Yeah,
I'm gonna refer back to one of Billy Connolly's best jokes on what Mercedes can do to win championships under these engine specs. It was It was in the African bush with a friend of his, and they saw a lion. One bloke started running away. He put his trainers on. So, what are you doing? They won't help you against a lion. No, but I'll be faster than you. It'll get you first. Mercedes are going to be the ones that put the trainers on. They've only got to beat one team at a time.
Yeah, I think the thing is for Mercedes this year, Ferrari weren't stronger than Mercedes. Mercedes had the suspension taken off them, and that affected their tyre performance.
Because they built that whole car
around it.
Around that suspension.
And that affected their tyre performance massively. And that was the problem. They couldn't get the tyres in the right window.
And it took them 5 races to work it out.
They started saying the car's a diva to get sorted out. But as soon as they were on top of that, and it didn't take them a massive amount of time, then it's unless something happens. Unless something next year happens where something they do gets banned again, I don't see any reason why this year probably should have been like last year and the year before.
Yeah, well, this morning on BBC News, as you'd expect, with there being a British world champion, the sports guy was doing his report from the Mercedes factory in Brackley, and he said down the end of that corridor is where next year's cars are already being prepared. He said, now I'm not even allowed to go down there. He said, and when we arrived here at the factory this morning, so the cameraman, the producer, the sound man, and myself had to have special unbreakable sealed stickers put over the cameras on our camera phones, which get taken off when we leave the factory.
That's mental.
Yeah.
Well, Ron Dennis hasn't gone to Mercedes, no.
No. Ron Dennis has apparently bought a parcel of land, hasn't he? He's
bought
a parcel of land.
That's what you call it.
Is it really?
He's bought a big chunk of land in Berkshire.
Yeah, which
Great
includes
tracts of land.
Yeah, he's going to build a manor house and a farm.
In my head, he's
already got it. I
got
think
a massive box with like brown paper on and a bit of string around it.
Yeah, you could envisage it like that if you really wanted to.
His land turned up from Amazon this morning.
It's fueled speculation that he might want to build another factory and do things, but I mean,
Great big house.
Yeah, probably
in the country. Yeah. Driver of the day for everyone.
The official FIA driver of the day. Can anybody remember who it was?
Max Verstappen.
Vettel, wasn't it?
It was Sebastian Vettel was the official driver of the day.
That's my driver of the day.
And apparently it was the closest driver of the day vote all season. It's hard.
I would say he deserved that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would. But I mean, look at all the other wonderful performances we've just gone over. Kevin Magnussen's, Lance Stroll's, Esteban Ocon's. All drivers who put their cars.
Max Verstappen.
Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, Fernando Alonso. That battle he had with Hamilton was brilliant.
My driver of the day is Romain Grosjean, for continually being that cornerstone that proves me right every single race. Sometimes I'm wrong about lots of stuff, never wrong about Grosjean.
Surely he should be your hero of the day then, rather than driver of the day.
I'm gonna give my driver of the day to Sebastian Vettel, not just for his race performance, but for his sportsmanship after the race, when he followed Lewis Hamilton, applauding him, and pulled up alongside him and applaud, thumbs up, well done, mate, you've won the championship. I couldn't beat you, basically.
Yeah,
you were better than me this year. Nice one.
Waving his fist. No, just you wait till next year.
Well, pretty much, yeah. That's what he said in his post race interviews. Was like, yeah, it hurts now. I'm disappointed, but
I'll get you, Gadget.
Yeah, I'll get you, Gadget. Yeah.
Chris, you asked for comments on the Facebook page.
I did. We had. I've gone through some of them already. Of course, we had a fan, didn't we? Actually, in Forest Sol, actually watching the live blog whilst he was actually at the race. Am I correct with that?
You are. It is good to know that the live blog comes in useful.
Mm-hmm.
You got lots of videos and photos, which I'm going to try and edit together and put on the website at some point of this week, along with all the photos that we got sent from Austin as well, because I've got a bit of a backlog.
Yes. Yeah,
I don't have a band practice tomorrow, so I might be able to do it tomorrow night.
So yeah, people like Joseph McKeechan saying that Vettel was the villain. One of those, as I was saying before, the sort of speculative cause the cause of the accident, but not his fault. I don't think racing incident, and I'm glad that the steward saw it that way as well. Yeah.
Stephen Carroll saying so for Max to win at least half the races next season in the championship, does Kvyat need to be brought back and then kicked out of Toro Rosso every other race?
Yeah.
3 wins, 3 demotions.
Well, that's exactly, Toro Rosso going to have to keep him on as an ambassador and then sort of invite him in on a Friday and the Saturday and kick him out of the paddock for Sunday, just for Max to win. Niall Slim Drew, a regular contributor, saying that we need to discuss inventing a time machine so we can stop Vettel crashing into Verstappen and Raikkonen and then not retiring in the next race, so that we could have actually been given the title battle that we deserve. I think we did get a good title battle, but it did peter out, didn't it? Let's be honest. It petered out a bit in the second half.
I think it stopped being a battle. That was the thing.
In the last quarter of the season,
Yeah.
It's and it was Ferrari did it to themselves again.
Just you. And that's what really
Elliot Fisher-Leach has mentioned the Alonso fighting his hard against Hamilton thing. Dave Blader makes an interesting point about Vettel's off-track overtake, which was completely ignored by the stewards. Is Jos Verstappen right? The F1 rules seem to be more guidelines than the stewards can apply as and when they see fit. And then
which off-track overtake would that be?
that would be on Massa, and then the defence here, Ryan O'Keefe, has actually had Massa oversteered into him, so that's why Vettel had to take evasive action. So that's probably why there was no.
Yeah, Massa kind of drifted wide on the corner and Vettel had nowhere else to go but off the track.
Yeah.
Damon Grimshaw's solved the problem with cars hitting each other by saying that bumping should be in the rule book as well as pod-mounted spears. I think that's getting a little bit Mario Kart, but
I'd have said NASCAR.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
I don't 100% disagree.
What, with NASCAR?
Don't be so stupid.
How are your cousins?
Sexy.
Cody Piscatelli has said Vettel and Hamilton now equal on titles. Everyone's talking about Hamilton like he's the best driver in history. We've just sort of gone over that.
Yeah.
Is this the British media talking like that, or do people genuinely think Hamilton is God and Vettel got lucky 4 times? I think there is still people out there who think, well, Vettel did get lucky 4 times. Those people are wrong.
I think Hamilton
got lucky as well. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Show me a world.
Is that Glock?
Show me a world champion that in the last 2 decades that didn't have the best car underneath them for the majority of the season.
Yeah.
That won a championship, and I don't think you can.
Yeah, Paul Bowen here saying, how about the top 3 getting virtually ignored after the race when all the focus was on Hamilton? Very bizarre.
It
Hamilton
was a weird post-race.
Hamilton was asked to, if he did win the championship in Mexico, to stop with the podium finishes,
which turned out not to be the podium because they had the podium interview before the podium celebration.
That was all very strange
and on track. What I want to know is if Lewis hadn't have won the title, what would they have still had the DJ on the number Wang rotating?
Yes,
board?
Because that was nothing to do with Lewis winning the championship.
That was just a party in Mexico, wasn't it? Yeah. Julian Nicholson here as well asking, why doesn't Stroll get any respect? No, he deserves it today for his performance at the weekend.
Yeah,
he really does.
There's complex reasons why he doesn't get respect. He came in too early, which I've said, meaning that
came in too early and too rich.
A lot of it is that he's a rich kid and people are biased against him. Mm-hmm. But coming in too early means that he's not been showing the performances from day one.
Yeah.
If he was performing like he is now from day one,
everyone would be saying he's the next Verstappen.
Yeah.
Maybe not the next Verstappen, but a lot more deserving of the drive.
I think the thing is,
he'll be a more solid, consistent driver, I think, than a lot less spectacular than Max Verstappen.
He very well could be a fine Formula One driver. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you don't have to be like a Hamilton or a Alonso or a Max Verstappen, because you're talking about drivers there which are the very best drivers in the world, or at least in the conversation of it. Not every driver in Formula One is the best driver in the world.
They're still one of the top 20.
Yeah.
19, Ericsson.
No, come on, we've been nice to Ericsson tonight because he performed very well. given the car he's had underneath him for the whole year.
But Lance Stroll has, and this is not doing him down in any way, shape or form whatsoever, but he has the capabilities to be as solid as Nico Hülkenberg.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I thought of something else as well, that hopefully if there's anyone listening to our podcast that's involved with like Liberty and the groundwork for designing, the future of Formula One, this whole thing of more fan interaction and giving something back to people.
Yeah.
That maybe it should be written into the I don't know if it's the sort of thing you've written into the rules, but certainly into the way things
Sporting
work.
regulations.
Well, no, because it's not a sporting thing, but maybe getting rid of the fact that when you get a world champion crowned, he's not crowned world champion until the until the prize given at the end of the season.
That is official.
That is official. Lewis Hamilton technically is champion elect.
Yeah, but what it should be is that in that case, let's say Lewis Hamilton wins the world championship in Mexico, yeah, which he just did. You have your top 3 podium, yeah.
Yep.
Then after the top 3 podiums done, you have a single podium for Lewis Hamilton where he's presented with the world championship, and that doesn't matter what race it is. When you win the world championship, you are presented with the trophy of that race.
But, or do you do it at the last race of the season?
I think you do it after the last race of the season.
No, because you lack the celebration.
Right. The thing is though. Okay, he's world champion at the moment.
Yeah.
What if Schumacher?
Oh yeah, but there's always
98.
that. Yeah, but I mean, in that case, you can say
97.
You could leave that if there's any sort of problem. But as far as unless that car ends up being fucking illegal, which given the scrutiny in Formula One it shouldn't be because it was on the track.
Yeah.
There is no reason why the champion shouldn't have been crowned.
If they can say on that day who won the race,
Yeah.
then they can say who won the championship.
Yeah. And
Well, yeah, but I mean,
Schumacher was excluded as well.
Yeah.
When he came second in the championship.
yeah, he actually
Yeah.
finished that 97 season with 0 points.
Yeah.
He had no points. All of his results were wiped.
But it doesn't matter because
His results weren't. His points were.
His points were wiped, but the team got to keep the.
even against
points.
Damon Hill, when he took Damon Hill out, there was no actual inquest into that. He was still world champion on that day, so you could have still presented him with the trophy.
Yeah.
Because there was never any question of him being champion.
It would be more of a show, wouldn't it? If you had, I think, a world championship podium. But I mean, if you've just lost the world championship, you're going to want to get your second place trophy on the day that you've lost it,
Or even your first place trophy.
Yeah, on the day that you've won it.
Yeah.
Well, no, if you've won the race but lost the championship.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean,
You do the race podium and then they do a championship podium.
imagine
it's
the boost for ticket prices, though. As soon as you start getting into the
You
mathematically
might see
possible, you might see
champion
the champion crowned. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's possible.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. We were talking about Williams before.
Well, I was just going to say
Stroll.
just one other thing with people writing in. Just want to say happy birthday to Ellis Carrick because he sent a Formula League time in earlier and said it's my birthday, so I haven't had many laps. A birthday shout out would be great.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Ellis.
How old
Is
is he?
that better? Doesn't say, but he's old enough to work at Nissan in Sunderland.
Right. So
Amazing.
10.
No, it's Sunderland.
Oh,
8.
right. Okay. Sorry.
8.
He's not Nissan home base.
So we were talking about Lance Stroll.
Yeah, and you were discussing things to do with Williams.
I was
believe
discussing
you've got
things to do with
something to
Williams.
tell all of our lovely listeners.
Yeah, we've got
to get them a little bit excited.
Yeah, we've got a competition, and it's a Williams-related competition.
And you will want to win this.
You definitely
You
will.
can drive for Williams.
Just send $15 million a season.
And
No.
evidence of your super license.
It could be fabulous.
That's,
Did we lose that bit? Or
Yeah,
not?
we did.
Oh, we did, didn't we?
That's not the prize.
That's not the prize. That is
Or the
not
competition.
What
We-
the competition is.
We have a signed photo of a member of Williams' pit crew.
We do.
Sorry, can I? But just for the rest of my advert, for anyone that wants to enter the Drive for Williams competition, one hand is required.
Is that where I put the tumbleweed in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Go on, Paul.
So,
You
yeah,
Go
can
for
find
it.
it funny. There's people out there laughing. I know there is.
at or with.
With
We'll see. Right, if I can get this in now.
Yes.
Thanks to our friends at Extreme Art and Gadgets, they will be supplying a picture of Guy Martin from the Belgian Grand Prix in the Williams gear, and it will be personally signed and dedicated to the winner of this competition.
Now, Guy Martin was, if I remember correctly, left rear wheel off
Yes.
at the Belgian Grand Prix, and he filmed the documentary with Channel 4.
Yes. Which I think is available on various streaming services outside the UK. It's called Speed with Guy Martin.
Yeah.
Or Guy Martin on Speed.
There are.
No, it's not called Guy Martin on Speed. That's something entirely different.
Oh, sorry, that's just how he talks.
Now, if you're not from the United Kingdom, you may need to put the subtitles on when he's talking, because he's very difficult to understand, even for us Brits.
If you're not from the UK, you might need to do a quick Google as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's more northern than me, I would say.
He's Lincolnshire.
He's from Lincolnshire, but he sounds more northern than me.
Yeah.
Guy Martin is a legendary motorbike racer, and he describes himself as an engine addict.
Yeah.
His day job is repairing lorries, but then he gets on the bike and does 130 mile an hour plus laps around the TT course.
He does, yeah. He's done the Isle of Man TT for the last...
About
with the
10
exception
years?
with the exception of 1 year, about 10, 12 years now. He was, when he first started, the fastest newcomer. He's won multiple road racing events around the world. Unfortunately, he's never won an Isle of Man TT. He has won road races on the Isle of Man, but never
Never the big one.
And of course, he's famous in the UK for his engineering shows, and also trying to break land speed records.
Land speed records, wall of death, live sheepdog trials. No, I'm not making that up. They brought back One Man and His Dog, and Guy Martin presented it.
I don't remember that, but I'll probably erase it from my memory.
Basically, he'll go to the opening of an envelope if you pay him.
But he was part of the Williams pit crew at the Belgian Grand Prix, and we very kindly, thanks to one of his sponsors, Extreme Art and Gadgets, got a photo which he will personally dedicate to the winner of the competition. So how do you win it, you may ask?
Well,
How do you win it, I may ask?
Thank you. What we want you to do is predict what the combined times in Q1 in Brazil will be for Lance Stroll and Felipe Massa.
So if I think that Felipe Massa will do a 1 minute 38 and that Lance Stroll will do a 2 minute 7, those are completely different times. I know that's
Yes.
It's a driver's circuit, isn't it?
So I need to add
2.5
those times
weeks.
together.
You need to add those times together down to the thousandth of a second.
So I need to add my 0.302.
Yeah.
So 207.302 if I'm wanting to do that.
Yeah. Add those two together and send them in. We must receive them before the start of FP1.
On the Friday.
Friday.
Which is the Friday the something of November.
Yes.
We'll work it. It's Friday the 11th of November?
I'm just bringing a calendar up now. Friday the 10th of November.
10th of November.
Yeah. So you have until the start of FP1.
Yeah.
On Friday the 10th to email them in. Now, what if it rains? Send in 2 times.
Send in a dry
and a wet time.
and a wet.
And the closest to it, to the combined times, gets it. If one of the cars doesn't make it out in Q1, we'll take the time from FP3.
Yeah.
Or whatever practice they have made it
Or
out
whatever,
to.
or the fastest time in
The
the
last
last practice
competitive
that
time,
they made it out in. So send those in. We've got a new.
Or shall we say the fastest time overall practices?
No, it's easier just to do it in
Q1.
It's just to do it Q1 or FP3 if they don't do Q1.
Which is, of course, the first qualifying session on the Saturday.
The first qualifying session on the Saturday. So, how to enter? We've got a special email address set up for this one, just so we don't get inundated. I'll put it on the website and on Facebook and on Twitter as well, but you need to send your entries to competition@threelegs4wheels.com.
Yep. That sounds really good.
And the photograph will be personalised to the winner.
Yep, the photograph will be personalised to the winner.
And that is thanks to Extreme Arts and Gadgets, who provide lots of memorabilia.
Arts and gadgets.
Well, yeah, the arts and gadgets, but a lot of sporting memorabilia.
Yeah, a lot of signed
sportsmen.
memorabilia stuff. If you want to check them out, I will share links to their website and their social media as well.
Yeah, I remember I've seen their stock quite recently. They got signed Anthony Joshua pictures if you're into your boxing.
They've got a signed Mike Hailwood one in, at the moment. That's about £1,000, understandably.
Yeah, they do occasionally carry Formula One memorabilia, but it's mainly sort of like.
It's one of those shops where you walk in, you think I could whack some considerable money in here.
Yeah.
They don't just do sport as well. They do a lot of science fiction stuff. They had
films.
They had a signing with Darth Vader himself, Dave Prowse, the other week.
Yeah.
I actually bought a poster from them, so I now have a Star Wars New Hope poster signed by Darth Vader.
Well, there you go.
Amazing.
I just now need to buy a very big frame to put it in because it's.
So thanks to the guys from Extreme Arts and Gadgets, and good luck with the competition.
Yeah, I'll put reminders up all through the next few days, just so you know where to send things and so you know what to send. So, of course, needless to say, after we'd finished recording the podcast on Monday night, the new engine regulations have come out on Tuesday afternoon. Basically, what is going to happen from 2021 is the FIA have decided that the 1.6 litre V6 turbo hybrid is staying, which I'm sure we're all delighted about. Although they are allowing a higher rev limit by 3,000 to improve the sound, which is something that everyone's asked for. They are going to standardise the internal design, so Honda will have to make an engine that actually looks like everyone else's and hopefully acts like everyone else's. But the major thing is they're getting rid of the MGUH. And as far as the MG UK goes, they are going to send it back to being manually deployable, just like the old KERS system, where the drivers can actually save energy up over several laps. So it's kind of an advanced version of what KERS used to be before the hybrid era. The other things that they're going to do is going to be a single turbo, which they've got at the moment. They're putting dimensions and weight limits on that. And it's, as we predicted a couple of weeks ago, it's going to be a standard energy store and control electronics, which again is a problem that the teams have had with all the replacements that they've had to make. They've also announced a high level of external prescriptive design to give plug-and-play engine, chassis, transmission swap capabilities. So I read into that it's going to be the same. The engine is going to be the same shape, so you can take an engine out of the back of one car and plug another manufacturer's engine straight into it. So you don't have the problems that Renault had the first year they were running their own engine after they stopped being Lotus, where they were expecting a Mercedes block in there. And they also have an intention to investigate tighter fuel regulations and limits on the number of fuels used. That's all to do with the oil burning, I think. So they're calling this a key step in the power unit regulations for 2021. Is it what everyone wanted? No. Is it a kind of half-step compromise between what they've got at the moment and what everyone has been clamouring for? The return of the V8s, the naturally aspirated engines. Yeah. It's still 3 years. The jury's out, but is it going to attract more engine manufacturers into F1? Where there's more of a chance of more teams being works teams. Are we going to see that Red Bull Aston Martin? We'll talk about this more, obviously, during the week on social media, and I am sure we'll have a lot to talk about on next week's podcast when we've all had a chance to let it sink in. So, we'll go back to the show now. Right. Do we think it's total shunt time?
Why not, eh?
Let's have a total shunt.
Let's have a total shunt.
You didn't tune the guitar. This could sound interesting.
No, I never do.
You do it early. You tune it early for him, don't you?
Nope.
Do we like the lullaby version from last week?
Yeah,
It was all right.
Yeah.
But we're all tired this week. We need waking up.
So it needs to be on-the-fly mariachi version
But it is 11:30.
without trumpets.
It would have been early, but we've already had one power cut tonight.
Total shunt, total shunt. Everybody, it's a total shunt. Look out, here comes a total shunt. Thank you for the extra trumpets there, Paul.
It's a good thing they were mic'd up.
Nice one, Dan. Who sent this week's in?
Niall Slim Drew.
Hey,
Oh,
well,
Niall's already got one mention on the podcast, and I get two mentions.
he's going to get a third as well. He's given a prize for Formula Lee.
Well, of course he is, yeah.
I was born
He gets it straight away. I was born.
in 1975.
1975. So
42.
Yeah, 42 years old.
Emerson Fittipaldi's hairstyle.
Eddie Jordan's wig.
Are we finished? Because I'm taking them as guesses.
No, that was conjecture discussion.
I started racing in 1995.
Started racing at 20.
Yeah, that's
late.
It is quite late, isn't it? Rather late.
Late for nowadays.
Even in the 90s, it's quite late because David Coulthard, I remember he started racing at like 4.
True.
So
Yeah.
started racing in 95. Was that start? We don't know in what discipline that started racing. That could be started racing in top level motorsport, or started racing karts, or bikes, or anything. Could be anything.
In my second season, I won the Formula 3 championship.
So he started in either Formula 3 or something lower. Oh, right, okay. So we're looking for
Oliver Gavin, someone like that. That's about the right time, isn't
That's
it?
a good call for about the right age, isn't it?
Yeah, around about the mid 90s when Oliver Gavin was looking to win. I think
Got as far as driving the safety car.
yes, I remember there was another driver, another English driver called Jason Coffin, who had an unfortunate name. I don't think ever made it to high level motorsport.
Are we ready? I need a
Do we
guess.
need a guess?
Oliver Gavin.
We'll go with Oliver Gavin for now.
Okey-dokey.
I don't think is he quite that old? I don't
He's
know.
been around a while.
there.
Yeah.
I then went to Japan, competing in Formula Nippon, winning the championship in my 6th season.
Oh wow! So it's spent a
Bloody
lot
hell.
of years in Japan then.
Formula Nippon, of course, is now Super Formula.
Yeah, which is what Pierre Gasly nearly won this year, and Stoffel Van Dorn competed in last year.
Next clue?
I think so. I mean, I can't think of anybody who competed in Formula 3, unless, of course, it wasn't necessarily British Formula 3, and then went on to race in Japan. That seems like, unless it's Anthony Davidson.
He used to do no, because he used to do tin tops, because he was I'm sure he did a few sports car series in the 90s.
Well,
He'd
that's-
still been in the Shire then as well.
He would have been, yeah, yeah. He has never been to Mordor by that point.
His brother was in the first UK series of Big Brother.
Oh right, okay.
One does not simply walk into Mordor.
Who
But one goes up through the formulae first.
You start off in Leicester.
That's why he was upset with Audi. He was 4 rings to rule them all.
The dad is strong in this one.
My first Formula 1 race was in Melbourne. Melbourne.
Yeah.
So
That's
at the
someone
start
who
of the
made their
year.
debut at the start of the season.
Did Mark Webber go to Japan before he started Formula 1?
I don't know, but his first race was in Melbourne,
It was.
and he
Every debuting Formula 1 driver for the past
20 years
Except-
will have debuted at Melbourne, apart from Pierre Gasly and Brendan Hartley.
and
But does that mean it was not? It didn't continue.
No, maybe. Who knows?
Well,
I can't see
Webber
the man.
did start racing
in Melbourne.
a bit late, didn't he?
Is he about 42, do we think, Mark Webber?
Could well be.
I think he was about 37 when he retired, wasn't he? That was
Yeah.
about 5 years ago now, so... Now, Mark Webber might be a good
But
shout.
I don't think he did a stint in Japan.
I don't think he did either, because we would have known about that with Japanese Grand Prix, wouldn't we?
I think
Yeah.
he did. I think he did all of his junior series in Europe.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what the next clue brings us.
I wasn't the most prolific point scorer.
So definitely not Mark Webber then. Are we looking at somebody like
Ricardo Zonta.
Robert Dornbos?
There's a name I didn't expect to ever hear again.
Ralph Furman.
You know, Robert Dornbos is still doing promotional work for Red Bull.
He also sounds like a character in Harry Potter.
Yeah, he does. A little bit. Robert Doorknobs.
That's what we all used to call him at the time. Yeah, is it going to be somebody like him or, like I said, Ralph Furman's a possibility?
I think I want a guess from you now, don't I? Do I? Yeah.
Yeah, that was 6.
That's guess time.
Ralph Furman or Justin Wilson, perhaps. Justin Wilson wouldn't have gone to Japan, though, would he?
No, I wouldn't have thought so.
Would Ralph Furman have gone to Japan?
Was Ralph Furman Irish?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, kinda. But
Was he English-Irish?
yeah, he was English with an Irish parent, so he had an Irish racing licence.
He was Pierce Brosnan?
Yeah.
Right. Come to think about it, he looked a little bit like Pierce Brosnan, didn't he? He had the same haircut.
I remember you calling him the ugliest driver ever to grace a Formula One grid.
Yeah, I don't think that's true now.
Yeah, but you just judge it on hair game these days.
I know, but past him, I know looks like a Bond villain.
That's true.
And not even like the evil mastermind Bond villain, like the Bond villain's helper.
The one that gets bumped off in the second act.
Yeah, and they've never been good looking, have they?
It's like
Odd Job.
Yeah, I was going to say
Jaws.
He's a little bit like Odd Job, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got no better suggestions.
I can't think of anybody who spent a lot of time in Japan.
Ralph Furman bought his drives, so he could have bought a drive in Japan.
Can I just point out that maybe it's a Japanese driver?
Shinji Nakano.
Tora Takagi.
No Japanese driver has been a prolific point scorer. Let's be honest.
that is true. Yeah, should we go Tora Takagi?
Go on then.
Yeah.
I think Dan might have it with what he said before.
I competed in the Le Mans 24 hours, but I finished with a DNF.
Not Nico Hulkenberg then.
Probably Shinji Nakano.
And not Mark Webber.
He did do a DNF.
I'm sure he's finished one and DNF the other, didn't he?
His first one, he DNF'd
early
upside
on.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the opening hours, wasn't it? Quite early on, I think.
And also in practice.
Yeah.
So we still could be on Mark Webber. It's just the 6 years in Japan thing there. Next clue?
Yeah.
I won the Super GT Championship.
Which is now known as the Super GT Championship.
Okay.
Well, it's actually got here. I won the JGTC/Super GT, so I've no idea whether it was that or either or. It's,
I think that might be the old name for it.
Yeah. I've never heard that, so that's why I didn't bother saying it. But
Yeah,
just
we
in
now got to
case.
the point where there's people screaming at their listening devices.
Shinji
Yeah,
Nakano,
Niall.
I think Dan might have it with Shinji Nakano. Because
Yeah.
he's around about the same age, around about the right age. Was a terrible driver at Williams for 2 years.
Kept running over his pit crew.
Did it twice.
Yeah. In Formula One terms, that's kept.
Yeah.
Another clue.
Yes,
Yes,
please.
yeah.
I raced in the ill-fated A1 Grand Prix championship, whatever it was, farce.
The global one.
Yeah.
Oh, I see that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the World Cup of Motorsport, whatever it was called at the time.
Yeah.
Formula No Personality. I know that's what we should do. Let's remove the human element from racing.
Formula No One. Basically, that's what it was, wasn't it?
Go Britain!
Alex Lloyd got to test a car in that. He's local.
Yeah.
He drove, didn't he?
No, he never actually did a race. He was the second driver and never actually.
I have no
got
idea
to the
because
race.
I did watch that for a little bit, but I got bored by it very quickly.
So did everyone else. That's why it kind of stopped. I remember we watched the first race together in the pub.
Maxi.
Yeah, and we got bored.
Yeah. I remember us not really knowing what was going on for a while as well because we couldn't tell.
Because they had like turbo, didn't they? Push to pass, like sort of things.
But I remember what really confused us was we didn't know which driver was where because when the driver came up, it would just simply say like Great Britain.
Yeah.
But there was 2 Great Britons in that case, and didn't differentiate between the Great Britons.
Was there a Japan?
It's still there.
Bits
Or,
of it,
or was it just a dream I had after too much cheese?
bits of it glow now.
You know when we all have to get.
In A1GP, did Japan compete?
Sorry, I just like to say, bits of it glow more now.
I think Niall might have got us with this one.
Yeah, I think there was, because they wouldn't have a racing series based on countries and not put Japan in there, because Japan likes motorsport.
Mm-hmm.
Stick with yours, I think.
Shinji Nakano.
Do we need to give a
No, we've got one more question, and you can give it to me.
I think we'll take the last clue.
I was sorry, no, I wasn't. I definitely wasn't. My father was Emerson Fittipaldi's chief mechanic. There you go, giving it away for you, haven't I?
Completely. I know a bit about Formula One, but not that much. I'm not Sean Kelly.
But was that Emerson Fittipaldi's chief mechanic in Formula One, or was that Emerson Fittipaldi's chief mechanic in IndyCar?
Right.
Because he raced in IndyCar for
20 years.
about that. Yeah.
Do you know who his chief mechanic was in IndyCar?
Yeah, it was that guy whose son was in A1 Grand Prix. Or that might have been his Formula One
The guy
mechanic.
that won the Super GT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shinji Nakano, I think, is the only driver I can think who's about the right age. He drove Williams 2001?
Sounds about right.
Ish.
Yeah.
Kazuki Nakajima as well. That's another one it could be.
Don't think Kazuki Nakajima's quite old enough. And the Spaff depends. Is there a Spaffer clue?
I can make a Spaffer clue for you. It's not a Spaffer clue.
That last one was the Spaffer clue.
But I can narrow down the not prolific point scorer by saying
right.
I only scored 1 point.
It won't be Kazuki Nakajima, because his dad was a little bit more than Emerson Fittipaldi's chief mechanic. He was kind of a driver.
Correct. Satoru Nakajima.
Yeah.
You made it sound like they had a really intimate relationship. But he was a little bit more than his chief mechanic. He was his lover.
No, Satoru Nakajima was Kazuki's.
The first F1 driver to have a camera on a car, which is...
That was Emerson Fittipaldi's bank manager.
Shinji Nakano is the only one I've got.
I've got no more than that.
I got nothing.
Did you were listening to, because surely Shinji Nakano scored more than 1 point.
Did he?
I've no idea.
He must have done.
Did he even score a point?
This is when Williams were really bad.
Right. Lee has just given us a clue from his own amount of knowledge, and now he's just said, did Nakano ever score a point? So therefore, I'm ruling it out on the available evidence.
I'm not looking at who it is. I can't see it. And the only reason was
Did Esteban Gutierrez?
I googled.
Esteban Gutierrez ever
Not in Formula One.
go to Japan?
No, he scored a
Scored
point.
point. Yeah, 1 point finish in 3 years.
Yeah, but he scored more than 1 point.
Yeah, he might finish like 8th or something like that.
Mm.
I thought he always finished 11th.
In his last year, he did, yeah.
Didn't he get a 4th? Oh no, didn't he get 4 points? What's 4th?
Something like that.
Anyway.
4 points.
I'm the
is
quizmaster, not the contestant.
8th, yeah.
It's either going to be Shinji Nakano or Toru Takagi, but I can't make up my mind which. We'll go with yours, Chris. Shinji Nakano. Yeah.
We'll give it a shot. It's probably quite wide of the mark, but we'll go with it.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah,
Not going to be someone Japanese, is it?
Mine probably not.
I'm Ralph Furman.
Oh, for God's sake!
That's why I did know, but that's why I was trying to say, what, 1 point? He scored 1 point. I was trying not to make you go for a Japanese driver.
I had no idea Ralph Furman spent that much time in Japan. 6 years in Japan.
Well, he used to be a pay driver, and if that's the only seat he could buy...
More than that, because I actually changed... Because when you were so into the fact that he was Japanese, I didn't want to give you the full Super GT question because it was too loaded towards Japan. So he didn't spend 6 years in Japan because he raced
8 years in Japan.
raced for 12 years in Super GT.
Good God.
My God. Shall we do Formula Lee?
Yes, let's do it. I didn't.
But no, thanks for that one, though, Niall.
Oh, yeah.
That was a
Thank you
good
very
one.
much.
I mean,
Yeah,
we did sort of gloss over Ralph Furman very quickly, but then so did Formula One.
Yes. That was Niall Slim-Drew, who is also providing one of the prizes in the Formula Lee competition, details of which to be announced in a couple of weeks' time.
Oh,
But,
yes.
they're the end-of-season prizes. In the meantime, we have the main prizes, which are supplied by Ultraflix. Just want to thank Dave and Ultraflix for their support all the way through the season and for the coming winter series in the classic cars.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We'll keep you posted with that too.
And this week's challenge, it was a 1 week because we're on back-to-back races. This was Mexico in the wet in a Sauber, and Lee is a dick, as most people tweeted at us.
Here I am.
Yep.
Massive throbbing
There was
dick.
only 2 of us from this room put a time in this week.
Funny that.
It wasn't Lee,
Nope.
and it wasn't Chris.
No, I
You
didn't.
were on holiday, Lee.
What?
You were on. You weren't at work. How come you didn't have time to?
I don't know, to be perfectly
He's got a
honest.
Nintendo Switch.
No, I only started playing that on Saturday. I got a few hours. I was doing stuff every day. There was babies and things involved.
You've had more babies.
Well, no, not more babies. But I had a busy week.
If you say so. Dan, I'm afraid I beat you. Your time was
Billy's not gonna rub itself.
132.824,
No.
and I beat you with a 132.573 that I got at about 5:30 this afternoon. I do apologise.
Well done.
That's the advantage of working from home while you were commuting.
I hadn't left work by that point.
No, I didn't leave work till late tonight either. See? Sacrifices.
Yeah, hollow victory for me. But I like my sofa. Right, top 10. In 10th place, we have... Let me just make sure I've got this right, because I read it out wrong a couple of weeks ago.
Oops.
One last sort, yep. In 10th place, we have Freddie Brunner, 131.475.
Hey, Fredo.
In 9th, Paul Large Simon. I'm still waiting for a time from Paul Small Simon. 131.293. 8th place, Patrick Daly, 131.289.
Hang on, just before you go any further, is Paul Large Simon the opposite of Niall Slim Drew?
Could possibly be. Never seen him in the same place at the same time, though.
No, fair enough.
What about Art Medium Garfunkel?
This is delaying the inevitable because I'm going to have problems pronouncing this name. In
Go for
6th, It's Lee Svidersky.
I'll do it.
With the question mark at the end. 131.148. Ryan O'Keefe in 6th, 131.106. Usual top 3 resident Pete Bull only making 5th this week, 138.39. Usual top step of the podium sitter Jeff Sharp in 4th.
So the competition's getting tougher.
It is at 130.771. Top 3, Ollie Vestley, 130.704.
That's another podium for Ollie, is it? He's been on the podium a couple of times now, I think.
He has. Second place, Carl Jarizec, 136.68.
Good effort, Carl. Well done.
And the new Jeff Sharp is Chris Olby. Again.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Well done, Chris.
130.438. He is now clear in second place in the table, and he missed the first 8 races of the season.
Wow.
Wow.
Can't wait for the winter series. This is going to be tight.
The winter series is going to be amazing.
Yeah. Jeff, of course, is champion.
Yeah.
Chris is looking good for second place. Pete Bull in 3rd. Luke Nipper 4th. And Finn Wilson rounds out the top 5. But there are prizes up to 10th place, and we've got some extra prizes as well, which we will reveal the details of in the not-too-distant future.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Formula Lee for Brazil is going to be a Williams in the dry. I think that's about it for this week. We've covered pretty much everything that we've got on the list. I think we've done the mailbag, because we kind of did that after
much,
the Grand
yeah.
Prix. That was
Yeah.
that's fairly good. So if you want to get in touch with us, you can use our general email address, which is 3legs4wheels@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at 3legs4wheels, or I'm at Pablo100.
I'm at a total shunt.
At Flood21.
At Danbert.
And we're on Facebook as well. Just look for 3legs4wheels on there. And we're also on Instagram. Patreon, that was the other thing.
Yeah,
we do an extra podcast every week, which is for our Patreon subscribers. Any donations from $1 a month upwards, greatly appreciated. keeps us ticking over with power supplies, I think, is going to be the next thing.
Yes, yeah.
Recording the show after a power cut, which thankfully we only lost 5 minutes.
Whoops.
Yeah.
And
You didn't notice though, did you?
no, my jump cuts are seamless. Yeah, or it will be when I edit
Anyway.
it when I get home.
So, McLaren.
Lewis Hamilton, world champ.
Young.
Try and make something out of that.
Congratulations, Nico Rosberg.
If you want to listen to the Patreon podcast, which is us talking about things that aren't Formula One related and usually how tired we are
And how little we've done.
and how little we've done because we don't have lives, you can go to patreon.com/3legs4wheels and you can donate there.
Yeah.
That's about it for this week. We will be back next week with a preview of Brazil.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, last year that was probably
That was race of the season.
race of the season last year. It was a wonderful race.
I had to watch it on catch up when I got home because I was in an airport, although by the time I got home the race was still going on.
Yep, 2 hours after it should have finished.
Yeah. So we'll be back with a preview of that and anything else that crops up during the next week. And we'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also,
And look
if,
out for those engine rules as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
the engine rules, yes.
If you're have room for another podcast in your ears, there's a second episode of Must See Audio up that you can listen to now, which is mostly me and Martin talking about conspiracy theories.
Well, that's what they want you to think that we're
Which
talking about.
definitely is what we're talking about. So yeah, go and download that, please. It'd be really good.
Right, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.